hit me with the truth. Don't pull your punches, and I'll brace myself for all this pain. Erase myself and start again. Grab a hold of me and throw me in the deep end. Show me the flame that burns inside of me, and I'll brace myself for all this pain. Erase myself and start again, and I'll face myself with honesty. Erase myself and start again. Yeah, yeah. I can't remain without the refiner. It's time to change what used to define me. Resist the pain, I have to keep fighting. Ignite the flame that's deep down inside me. It hurts at first, but worth all the pain to see myself and not be ashamed. It hurts at first, but worth all the pain to see myself and not be ashamed. And I'll brace myself for all this pain. Erase myself and start again, and I'll face myself with honesty. Erase myself and start again. I toss and turn, and tick by talk the hours burn, pleading for this night to end. A part of me begging to go back to sleep. It sure is easy, but not for me. So here I am with all I have, waking up, facing what's in front of me. I so I can start to dream. Your smile so deceptive that it almost looks real. Well, it must be hard to fake what you do not really feel. You're hiding, I know it. Tell me what's on your mind. I only wish to help. Won't you let me back inside? Say that it's over. Tell me the truth just one last time. I promise I'll help you. If only you'll let me back inside. Let me inside. Your face shows no reaction when I call out your name. Your presence like a ghost. You seem so far away, and you know that I love you, but the words seem to have died. I just want this to end. Please let me back inside. Say that it's over. Tell me the truth just one.
Hello, check 1, 2. Hey folks, hold on just a second. Not sure why this is making so much noise. I'm gonna see if I can get that fixed real quick. Coming from my mic. Am I even... Hello, check 1, 2. Hello. I feel like it's... Wait a second. Check 1, 2. It seems like it's really quiet, but the noise is super loud. Hello, check 1, 2. Really don't know why it's doing that. I'm sorry, folks. This might be it. This might be... Maybe my preamp has finally bit the dust. Come on. Hello, check 1, 2. Man, I do not know why it's doing that. Drank soda with a 2. Let's see. Mic probs, I heard your voice, but I hear static. It stopped. Oh, it started again. Yeah. If it stopped, it's probably because I muted it. So if I press mute on here, like I can stop. And as you can see, I'm not coming through. I'm guessing it's something with my preamp. Hello. Okay, I'm not going to touch anything. So something happened, and it seems to be clean now. So let's roll with that. All right, here we go. Yeah, it could be dust or something. I'm not really sure. But either way, should be good. Now that we're back on track. Good evening, folks, or good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Quincy Kane here, and this is live stream number 194. And off to a great start, having some technical issues, but seem to have those resolved. And as you can see, I don't have my lights set up, and that's because I couldn't find them. They're usually in the sanctuary. Again, I'm in a hallway in my church right now, and usually I just grab the lights, I borrow them from the sanctuary, set them up just to kind of get things looking a little nicer, a little ready for a show, but couldn't find them and was running out of time before the live stream was going to be starting. So anyway, if you're just getting tuned in, don't be shy, say hello. So for this stream, this is a little different. Usually I will perform, but this is a segment where I share my process. I love songwriting. I love the songwriting process. And I love sharing what I've learned about it, what I've discovered, and answering questions and things like that. So a lot of times we will use this segment to dive into songs that I've released, or I will take ideas and show you how I take just a simple guitar idea and turn it into what could potentially be a full song. And it's fun. It's my favorite part of music, is having an idea and just hearing it come to life. But for this particular stream, this is 194, we're going to be looking at lyrics. And even Becky is asking right now, what song are we working on today? Well, it's actually not a new song. We're just going to kind of talk about the process of lyrics in general. So I'm probably going to focus on my most recent song, which is Pull the Trigger. I'm going to talk a little bit about the process of writing lyrics for that song specifically, but by all means, we can make this what you guys would like to see. So if you have any questions about lyrics, anything at all. If you have questions about lyrics, let me know. I'll do my best to answer them. If you have questions about a specific song of mine and you'd like me to kind of dive into that and talk a little bit about what went into it, we can. I will be honest, the tricky thing about lyrics is whenever I write them, it's very much a storm of just ideas. I'm always typing out just a bunch of ideas, and you filter it out little by little. You write like a bunch of junk, and then you find the little tidbits of gold, and you pull that out. And over time, eventually you craft a song, but having to sort of backtrack and go look at my original notes and my rough drafts and my brainstorming sessions, it's probably going to be a little bit of a mess. So it might be fun to dive into, I hope so, but it's probably going to be, it might take a little bit of digging to sort of remember, oh, I know what inspired that line or how I came up with that initial idea. That's why I'm probably going to focus mostly on Pull the Trigger, because that's the most recent song I've written, so I think I can share where my head was at and kind of the steps that I took to finish the lyrics for that song, to write a complete song. But by all means, you can ask about any song that I've written or any questions related to writing lyrics. We've got Becky in the chat. Becky, I appreciate you tuning in. Anyone else who's just tuning in, don't be shy, say hello. And Becky, I hope your stomach feels better. Yeah, I had a friend. I got two stories here. So first off, do you guys have Buffalo Wild Wings over in the UK? We've got Buffalo Wild Wings here, and I love it. It's one of those places you go for a specific food item. Like, sure, they've got sandwiches and burgers and other things like that, but you go for the wings. And it's a great restaurant to get out with some friends and just enjoy some wings. I have one friend. He doesn't live in my area anymore, so I don't see him regularly. But he loves hot food. But there's hot food kind of confuses me a little bit, okay? And here's why. Because for some reason, when it comes to hot food, it seems like there's a little bit of an ego, like how much heat can you handle? And that's the thing about food. Like, that's what I don't get. Food's just supposed to fuel you, and it's just supposed to be enjoyable to eat. So I have two perspectives. It's like, if you want to have some kind of competition like say like the Hot Ones show. You ever see that, the Hot Ones interview where they eat hot wings? Like even I think that looks fun, but the purpose of that is to withstand the heat. And I can do that. Like if you want to challenge me to take on the heat of some spice, sure, I'm game for that. Like I'll take a bite and I'll do my best to, I'll tough it out. I'm not going to show any flinching pain or anything like that. That's fine. But if I'm just eating for the enjoyment, like just eating to satisfy my hunger, I never really understand why do you want to go the absolute hottest that you can. I don't know. If there's any hot food fans, maybe you can explain to me what the appeal of hot food is. Because to me, it just seems like an ego trip. It just seems like proving like how much heat you can handle. And it's like, yeah, I can do that too. I can, I'll take the hottest sauce you got, but that doesn't mean I enjoy it. It's like I can tough it out if that's what we're trying to prove. But if I'm just wanting to enjoy something, we'll see. So there's like two experiences with that. My friend who likes hot food, we went to eat somewhere once. He ordered the hottest wings you could. And then he asked, and this was totally an ego thing. He was like, hey, you got any hot sauce, like any really hot sauce so I can make this even hotter? Like he was asking for more sauce to make it even hotter. And you know what? He ate it and later he threw up. And it's like, that's what you get, man. That's what you get for trying to prove how much heat you can handle. For me, I usually would go as high as I could comfortably handle. Like if I'm just eating for fun, there was a little bit of that ego, like I'm not going to get like the basic honey mustard wings or something. I'm going to get at least medium wings or spicy or something like that. And I used to do that. I used to do that fine. But I think the last time I ate there, I went pretty spicy. And let's just say I could eat it fine. Like it wasn't a problem toughing it out. But it was the bathroom stuff later. And after that, I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not like the heat makes it taste any better. It's like even just the mild buffalo wings, like they taste just as good, but you don't have to deal with the aftermath afterwards. So that's my take on hot food. But either way, Becky, I hope you feel better. Saying I drank soda with it, so it probably made the burn worse. I have heard if you have stomach issues, I think I've heard, have you ever heard the acronym for BRAT? B-R-A-T. So I think it's, I hope I got that right. I'm trying to think what bread is. Because I know it's A for applesauce, T for toast, R for, man, what am I missing? There's something else. I know applesauce and toast are usually good for like an upset stomach. And there's something else too. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's brat, but I can't remember what the B and the R stand for. Unless it's something else. I don't know. It'll probably hit me later. But either way, I hope your stomach feels better. Let's see here. Catching up. Oh, hey, Jack. Appreciate you tuning in. Jack, let me know how your week's been. Anything fun or eventful happened lately? Definitely let me know. Let's see here. Just catching up with the chat. Yeah, Becky. Noticed the lights, but didn't mention them because you could probably tell I was already kind of dealing with some stuff. Let's see here. Yeah, I hope Silas will tune in. I feel like, well, first off, not because you're boring, Becky. I completely disagree. I think you are one of the most enthusiastic in the chat. I always enjoy having you in the chat. I always appreciate conversing with you and reading your comments. So you're certainly not boring. Definitely not. But I do hope Silas is here because I think we all know Silas enjoys writing music. And I think he enjoys this part of the segment. He's working on his own songs, and so I would certainly like him to be a part of this so he can ask questions and I can help him and give him some advice in his own songwriting. Jack was saying, hello. Hey, nothing to apologize. We're still getting started here. Your definition of late is not being early. You're always here before the stream even starts, which I got to say, I don't know if that I always understand that. Sometimes, Jack, you say hello before I've even gone live. Like the stream's up. Usually I go live 10 minutes early, but even before I've set the timer, you'll be like, hey, Quincy, how's it going? And I'm like, wow, Jack's here early. I haven't even started yet, but Jack, always appreciate you. So maybe by your normal time, you're a little bit late, but yeah, we haven't even dived into the lyrics yet. We're still getting started. Becky loves Hot Ones. Yeah, it's a fun show. I don't watch it regularly, but whenever they have like a guest that I want to see, I enjoy. Have you seen the Conan O'Brien episode? That's probably the best interview they've ever done because Conan is hilarious the way he handles that. That's a good one. Oh, so now you guys are competing for how boring you are. Jack's like, you have no idea how boring I am. No, I enjoy conversing with all of you. Mostly watched, yeah, and Becky kind of commenting, mostly watching just the episodes with the celebs I like. Yep, same here. Let's see, I think Bill Mayer got it right. We're supposed to eat to live, not live to eat. And yeah, I pretty much, I would say I'm mostly, hold on, let me think on that real quick. I mostly agree with that. Food is fuel, but I still think there is enjoyment. I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying food. You can, this is coming from someone that, like, I'm super simple with food. I will eat the same meal every day. In fact, I already have my meals planned out. Like, I know what I'm going to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner. I usually have a snack between lunch and dinner, and then I have a smoothie at night. And I have every meal. I already know what I'm having for every meal, so that way I don't have to think about it, and I can just plan it and prepare it. It's like predictable, quick, easy, get it done, and then I can get back to my day doing what I actually want to do. So when it comes to food, I'm very straightforward. Like, I'm very simple. That doesn't mean that there aren't foods that I enjoy, or favorite desserts or treats or anything like that. But as far as just eating for to live, I'm very, very boring. I'm very straightforward. But I understand that there are some people that they view food differently. Like, it really is an art for them. Like, they love cooking, and I can't say I completely understand that. I don't really get it. Part of me is like, I just need something good enough, and that'll work for me. But there are people who really have a passion for that, and so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a passion for food and being creative, like creating different recipes. There's some pretty amazing recipes that people have come up with, and somebody had to experiment with food and combinations to create those recipes. We have so much now that it just seems like there's anything available, but pizza didn't always exist. You know what I mean? Pizza is amazing, but pizza didn't always exist. Somebody had to come up with that combination, and thank God someone did, because pizza is pretty incredible. But yes, I do agree that food is first and foremost to fuel our bodies. I believe that's the priority. The priority of food should be as a fuel, and not just, when I say fuel, not just sufficing hunger. That's not the purpose of food. It's not just to satisfy your hunger. It's to provide nutrients for your body. It's to maintain your vehicle. Your body is your vehicle for life. So that's the first priority of food. And then the luxury of food, the pleasure of food, is then getting to enjoy some treats every now and then. So, as long as you have your priorities. Milk is supposed to be good for impact on spicy food. I've heard that before too. I think that's usually why on hot ones they'll have water, and they'll usually have milk as well. And Becky's saying, yes, it's an ego thing for sure. When we were teenagers, it was also cool to drink till we threw up. Yeah, I never understood anything like that, like eating till you throw up, drinking till you throw up. It seems like a complete waste. Let's see here. There's actually, I can't remember, maybe you guys know, there's a movie that talks about, it was The Hunger Games. Yeah, The Hunger Games talk about that. They talk about how they're living in poverty to, just barely getting by to survive. But when they're chosen for the games, they get to live in luxury, because it's a few days till they're going to be competing to their death, basically. And while living in luxury, the people there, they have some ability, they can eat food and then throw it back up so they can eat something else or something. I can't remember how it was phrased, but it kind of pointed that out, how there's people struggling for food, and then you got other people who are literally throwing it up just so they can eat more of it, So yeah, for sure. Make it count. Food is something to be grateful for, not something to take lightly. And yep, I think I live to eat. When I'm not eating, I'm thinking about food. I would say, maybe think about that a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with being passionate about food, but I do think you have to be careful with your priorities sometimes. And it depends, because there's some people passionate about making food, and then there's some people that I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily know that it's wrong to prioritize different kinds of food, but I can say you've got to be careful what you put into your body because you've only got one body and it's your vehicle for life. And so I'm very much an advocate for taking care of your body and being healthy. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy treats. It just means you have to understand how to prioritize them. But anyway, I don't think we're here to talk about, I enjoyed chatting with you guys, but we might get into some lyrics soon. Not sure if anyone's tuning in that they're like, yeah, we wanted to hear your opinion on food, Quincy. No, we wanted to talk about writing lyrics. Let's see here. I have to look that episode up. Yeah, Conan's hilarious. Yeah, if you haven't seen Conan's episode on Hot Ones, that's a good one. I only decide what to eat when I'm hungry. I don't think that's so good for you, though. Yeah, because sometimes hunger, like when you're hungry, you don't make the best decisions. And I can say that because, again, you've heard me talk about this before, but a lot of times these streams, I enjoy them, but they'll go on for some time. Usually I try to eat dinner around 7 o'clock, which would be about 12 minutes from now. That would be my usual dinner time. But on Thursdays, I use that time. I eat a snack before the stream, and then I do the stream. But by the time the stream is over, I've worked up quite a bit of an appetite. Plus, I still have to unpack. I have to turn off all the gear, put it back, pack it all up, and get home. So it's not like I just turn it off and I eat right after this. I have to, there's still a bit more time before I get home. And even then, when I get home, I got to put my gear away, and usually I'll change into my night clothes. And then I can finally eat. So I can say, as someone, when I get home and I'm like really hungry, I think sometimes your eyes are bigger than your stomach. You're just so hungry that you're like, yep, that looks good, that looks good. You kind of like grab everything, and you probably don't actually need it, So, so it's probably better to make food choices while you're not hungry, and get that eaten first. And yeah, there is such a thing as hangry. I don't know if you guys have heard that term before, but it's usually when you're in a bad mood because you're hungry. When you are hungry, you are kind of, you're kind of more easily aggravated, and so you just need something to eat to kind of calm you down. Yeah, Catching Fire was the movie that mentioned that. We're talking about food early this time. Hope you'll have a great dinner when you get home. Yeah, thanks. Going to be very hungry this evening, if we keep talking about food. Yeah, and just to clarify, I don't believe in, what's the word? I don't believe in like guilt shaming, that kind of thing. Like when I talk about food, I mean just understanding the priority of it. But it's not like, if you have access, kind of like what Keanu's saying there, like if you have access to enjoy some great food, that's a blessing. That's something to be grateful for. You shouldn't feel bad about having that opportunity to enjoy something like that. But at the same time, just make sure you understand that. Make sure you're grateful for it and not taking it for granted. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of the carby stuff, like cake and cookies, it's quick to grab and it quickly satisfies, But you can eat a lot of it too, so it's kind of hard. Yeah, a lot of that stuff when you're hungry looks more appealing than eating something. Yeah, hangry and upset. That sounds good. All right, guys, we're going to start looking at some lyrics. Again, if you have any questions about the songwriting process, certainly let me know. If you have any questions about any of my particular songs, if you're curious about a certain lyric or a certain line, the topic of a song, anything, if you have anything you're curious about, feel free to ask about it. So I'm actually sharing with you guys my notes. Now, I'll be honest, some of this is going to be quite a mess because this is literally my workshop. It's a bunch of notes, and I'll write stuff up, and once it gets messy, I'll start a new note and kind of filter it out and simplify it to just the main stuff that I need. So let me see if I can explain what we've got here. On the left side, where you see where it says like songwriting system and then concepts, titles, all these different categories that I'm scrolling through here. That's what this is. These are the different categories of notes that I can select, and I'll talk about some of them. And then obviously on the right, this is where it is written down. So I'm starting with this first note. This this is a songwriting system, and this is actually something that I'm still kind of developing. I'm not going to say that I have this down yet, but the trickiest thing about writing lyrics, it's really hard to write lyrics when you don't have anything to say. It's a lot easier to write lyrics when you've got something on your heart and you've got something on your mind and you just need to get it out. I've written some songs within a day, and when I say a day, I mean like maybe I had my guitar for an hour or two. I just sat down with my guitar, and 2 hours later, I had a finished song. And those are those special times where you've got something on your mind and you're really pondering it and thinking it, and you just, that's what music is to me. It's that channel to express my thoughts and my feelings. And I've written songs like that before, where there was just something I needed to get off my chest, and I just picked up an instrument and the words just started coming out, and just the more I tinkered with them, there was no problem in figuring out what I needed to say, because I already kind of knew what was on my mind. I already had the thoughts swirling in my head, and I just needed some format to get them out. That's sort of the purpose of art. That's the best. That's great. Whenever that happens, that is great. But the problem is, especially as an artist, if you're trying to write songs more frequently, if you're trying to release them more often, you can't just wait for those times when you're inspired. You can't wait for those moments when you have something on your mind, because one, it doesn't always happen conveniently. Again, sometimes, like some of you know, I'm working on this song right now, Pull the Trigger, and as soon as I release it, which it should be coming out fairly soon, there's still a little bit of work to do, but once that song comes out, ideally, that's time for me to move on to the next song. And you know what? When it's time to work on the next song, if I want to finish it, especially within a reasonable amount of time, I have to somehow conjure up the inspiration myself. I can't just say, oh, well, I'll just kind of wait till I feel inspired and then I'll finish that song. No, I have to find some way to stir up those thoughts and those emotions and get myself in a mindset where I'm taking an idea and I'm seeing it through to completion, and not just waiting for the convenience of, being in the mood or being inspired. Hey, we do have Silas here, and Silas, maybe you got a new profile picture or something, because usually you're just the orange S, but appreciate you tuning in, Silas. We are just getting started. Let's see. Watched a good, yep. Scary stories to tell in the night in the dark. Yeah, I think I'd heard of that, and that sounds pretty good. Cool. Silas, we're talking all about writing lyrics, so if you have any questions about writing lyrics, or if you have any questions about any of my songs, certainly feel free to ask. But right now what I'm showing you is this songwriting system. Again, like I was saying, you can't always rely on just being inspired. So this is something I needed for myself, because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I'm like, man, I'm not sure where to start. I don't know how to get a song written. So this is still a work in progress for me. But the purpose of this songwriting system is to have sort of a step-by-step process to say, okay, let's focus on this first, and if I do this, it should hopefully set a spark. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make fire. You're trying to set that spark that ignites the flame of inspiration so that you can get on with writing. So if we go through this list, the first thing you see here, it's kind of funny. This is a tough one. I still need to practice this myself, but number one is more like a pre-habit. It's to write regularly. You should regularly be coming up with concepts, coming up with titles, and courses for upcoming songs. So let's talk about that. What does that mean? So first off, coming up with concepts. A concept just means you have an idea for a song. Maybe you don't know what the song is going to be titled. Maybe you don't have any lyrics yet, but you kind of think of, I would like to write a song about this. In fact, I can look here. Again, if we look through these notes here, I have different categories. Right here, I've got a note for concepts. And so if I dig through this, like, let's see what we've got here. I've got a song about, like, I've got it written here, a song for overcoming loneliness and learning contentment. Again, that's not a song yet. I don't have a title. I don't have a specific moment in my life that I'm referencing. But if you guys can see that note, that's an experience of something that I've dealt with before, dealing with loneliness, but learning how to overcome that and learning contentment. So that's something I could write a song about. What about this? Overcoming lust and learning self-control. That's certainly something that could be a topic. A song about God's love completed me and not hers. I was looking for love in a relationship with someone else, and I realized it was my relationship with God that completed me, and not just a romantic relationship with somebody else. Here, a song for being a victor and not a victim. That's certainly a topic. So these are concepts, it's not a title. I don't have any lyrics. I don't even know what the song is about. It's just kind of a concept. So I hope that makes sense. And you can write that. You might come up with a concept for a song, and you need to have a list. You need to have a list for concepts, because you can revisit that list, and sometimes you might see one and say, hey, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I'd like to dig further into that, and you can go from there. Believe it or not, coming up with titles is a good idea. Sometimes you might not know what the song is about, but you might come up with a title in your head, and it's like, that's a cool sounding title. Let's see if I got any here. Let's see here. I'm looking where my title's at. Song titles and courses. See if I got anything here. I don't know that actually. That might be kind of a new note. I don't know that I have much here. I do know one thing that I'll do. I'll talk about this later, but when I'm working on a song, sometimes I'll just come up with a bunch of titles for it. So here are some titles I've got. I think these were titles for Pull the Trigger. Before I came up with Pull the Trigger, I had Waking Up in Tears. I had If I Had Known, If Only I'd Known. I've got Gone. I've got You Felt the Same, She Felt the Same. Look But Don't Touch. That's a good title right there. Look But Don't Touch. Just Because. That's a title right there. Let My Guard Down, Letting My Guard Down, My Guard Is Down. Make It Count. That was another one. So just coming up with an idea for titles, that can spark what the lyrics might be about, or what kind of language, what kind of vocabulary you might use for your song, just coming up with titles. And then most importantly, courses. That's something we're going to talk about, but one thing I've learned lately is the best thing you can do when you're writing a song, the first thing you want to focus on is just writing a course. And there's so many benefits to this. We'll talk about it a little more in depth later, but you don't actually want to just start at the beginning and just try writing your song. Now again, during those inspiration phases, sometimes when you're just inspired, you can kind of write anywhere. You can start at the beginning, and you might jump to the bridge, and you might jump all over the place and just kind of write wherever you feel like this line feels like it belongs near the end of the song, or this sounds like a good opening line, or this sounds like a good line for the chorus. Whenever you're in that creative mode, yeah, you can do whatever you want. But usually when you hit that wall and you're trying to ignite the inspiration, usually the chorus is the place you want to focus. That's your only objective. Don't worry about the whole song. Just focus on writing a good chorus. Also, with that said, great phrase for songwriting. Great songs aren't written, they're rewritten. So what that means is a lot of times your first goal as a songwriter is just to write a first draft for the song. Stop trying to write the perfect song right off the bat. Stop trying, don't just look for the perfect lines. Just get a song written. It might not be a good song, but at least it's a song. That's what you're trying to do. You're just trying to get a song written. And then it's so much easier to look at the whole song and spot the problem areas and say, here's the areas that really need to be fixed. There's a good idea here, and if I were to tweak it, it could be better. That right there is actually pretty good, or this would work better here. It's a lot easier to fix a song than to just start with a blank canvas and not really know what your song should be. So I'm going to catch up with the chat real quick, and then we will, we'll continue with explaining this process. And yep, Silas was saying change the profile picture. Well, it looks good. Looking sharp in your profile pic. Let's see here. Cool. Yep, talking about the pictures. Yeah, I saw that Silas had just posted a new video. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet, but I added it to my watch later, so I'll definitely check it out. One of my friends has come up with song titles and helps give me concepts to write about. Exactly, that's the great thing. If you come up with a good title, that can be the thing that inspires what you're going to write about. So that's kind of something you can do regularly. And because, you might be going for a walk and you might think of a good lyric. You might think of a cool line or you might come up with a good title or a good idea for a song. And so you want to record that stuff on your phone, and then ideally you want some kind of list, some kind of notes app to write that down. And it really helps to categorize this stuff. Have a single category for concepts, a single category just for lines, lyric lines, a single category for titles, for whatever it might be. You want to kind of individualize this stuff. And you can see here, I actually have a category for sort of general concepts, and then I have more specific, like current songs that I'm working on, and then I try to get more focused on that, like a specific song that I'm working on. Step 2. So again, step 1 is kind of more of a pre-step. It's technically something you're supposed to be doing all the time, like on a regular basis. It's more like a habit than a step, really. Step 2, this is when you're actually trying to work on a song. So one thing I will do, I like to write the music first. So whenever I write the music, I always listen to it, and I try to describe the mood or the tone of the music. I will write as many descriptions as I can. I'll write whatever words describe the tone and the mood of the song, and I'll write whatever images pop in my head when I hear the music. And I'm curious. I want to kind of challenge you guys real quick. But what I'll do is I'll write that down, and then I will think of times when I have experienced such an emotion, or I will think of a current circumstance that I'm in that makes me feel that way. And then I want to take note of what I'm instinctively drawn towards and come up with a general idea. So I'm kind of getting ahead. So I've got a fun challenge here, guys. So let's look at Pull the Trigger. Now, you guys have already heard the lyrics, but don't think about the lyrics of the song. I want you guys just to listen to the music. I'm going to play it here. And just type any words. Like, you guys can try this out. Type any words that sort of describe the mood or the tone of the music, okay? So I'm going to play it. Here it comes. Oh, sorry, you're not going to hear my guitar there. Let me get her. So when you're hearing this, what kind of emotion comes to your mind? What kind of mood, and literally just type it in the chat. Type like whatever, and then here. Like when you hear that, what do you feel? And are there any images? And I mean like literally, you could say, man, this makes me think of like walking down a street by myself at night, just feeling alone in the cold breeze or something like that. Like you can write down specific visuals that the music puts in your head, if it does. So type that. I'd be curious, like what kind of mood or attitude or tone kind of comes to your mind when you hear this? And if it puts any visuals in your head, let me know what it might be. Let's see. Some lead guitar. Again, this is going to sound a little empty because this is my backing track. So. And I'll share with you guys the words that I wrote. Let me see if I can find them real quick. Here we go. Like, listen to that melody. Curious, like when this bridge kicks in. It's building up, you can feel the energy building. That's interesting. So Jack's saying like a confident strut or stride. I definitely know what you mean by strut and stride. I think the word confidence is kind of interesting. Defiance, maybe. That's interesting. Yeah, almost kind of resistance, maybe. That'd be kind of a good word. So like sort of strutting along, sort of in spite of something, So that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. So yeah, when you said strut or stride, so what you see right here, these initials, this AI, yeah, if you can see those initials there, the AISTFT, yeah. The original title for this song was called Am I Supposed to Feel This Way? And I'll explain how I got that title. That was like the demo title when I first wrote the music. I always have temporary titles. But these were the words that I wrote. So I wrote catchy and I wrote steady. So when you say like strut and stride, yes, steady was kind of the word I had, just kind of that steady, perseverant, like keep going kind of thing, you know? Here I've got, I think it's kind of funny that you put confident, because I actually wrote unsure about feelings, you know, like decision making. That's what I wrote. I wrote decision making. I wrote deep breath, determined, bracing yourself, like getting ready for something. I wrote confession. I wrote scared of the answer, you know, kind of like maybe, you know, preparing to face something, but kind of scared to find out what it is. Embracing acceptance. Frustrated, I added that. I miss you, and then I kind of have regret. So those were the kind of words that I sort of wrote. Powering through, yeah. I think powering through would kind of match with kind of what I was describing. And so, but that's what you do. You kind of write a piece of music, and then you kind of try to write the emotions or any kind of visuals that pop in your mind. Again, some of you know my song Farewell to Fear. Let me see if I still have that one. I'm trying to see if I still have the original notes for that. Because Farewell to Fear, the original title for that was A Lonely Snowfall. And the reason I titled that was because that was the visual that popped in my mind. I don't know if you guys can remember what the album cover for that looks like. If you've seen the music video, you know, like that scene where I'm out in the dark and kind of isolated, like it's just that street light kind of shining down on me and I'm just surrounded by darkness. That was the kind of visual that I kind of had. I called it A Lonely Snowfall because I imagined like this street light at night while with like snow on the ground and like this gentle snowfall. So if I could have had it my way, the music video actually would have had snow in it. But that's kind of an example. Sometimes I'll get sort of a visual in my mind and I'll use that as a temporary title, A Lonely Snowfall. And then I'll try to think what does that visual make me feel? What kind of emotion? So that's what you can do. You can kind of write your music, and based off of your music, you can sort of write down any words, as many words as you can think of that describe sort of the mood and the emotion. And then what you do, so the next part of that is you think on your life. You try to think of times in your life when you experienced such an emotion, or is there any current circumstances that you're dealing with that are making you feel that way? And then you kind of write down anything that sort of matches those descriptions. And usually if you write them down, there might be one or two ideas that kind of you feel instinctively drawn towards, and those are the ones you want to start with. Like always kind of follow your gut, like whatever kind of feels right, whatever you kind of keep coming back to, that's usually a good sign that maybe that's what you need to express. So again, if we're looking at, let me find that, where's that at again? Here we go. No, where'd it go? There it is right there. So if we're looking at those words, you know, unsure about feelings, decision making, I wrote regret at some point, like maybe dealing with regret. So here I'm kind of trying to come up with concepts, why it's important to make every moment count, take every shot when you get it, wanting to try love again, but haunted by my last experience. Let's see here. I wrote, and here I'm asking questions myself. Is this a song about regret? Is it about denial? Is it about redemption? Maybe it has to do with all of them. And so I've got regret, maybe what I should have done, denial, what I've convinced myself all this time, redemption, you know. And so you can kind of start exploring like times in your life when you perhaps felt that way. And so for this particular song, let me see. I ended up going with, it ended up, well, we'll see. I'm trying to see how I ended up coming up with the idea I came up with it. Becky's got a question. My question is for both Quincy and Silas. Do you ever want to write a really meaningful word into your song and it fits the song perfectly, but you have to leave it out because nobody else will understand it? I don't think so. I don't know if you have an example of what you mean by that, but usually when I'm writing a song, I'm always trying to find the words that most accurately convey what I'm trying to say. Now, it is true that in a song, you only have so much real estate. You've only got so much room for lyrics. I've heard think about it. In a song, typically you've got 2 verses, a bridge, and a chorus. That's it. And so even any song I've written, I've said this before, but any song I've written, I can't really say everything I want to say in just one song. So every song is really just one perspective or one angle or one emotion or feeling about a certain situation in my life. I've used the example before. I've got 2 songs, the song For You and the song Say That It's Over. Both of those songs are about the same person, but they're 2 different emotions or 2 different perspectives about that situation because I couldn't express everything I was feeling in just one song. For You is kind of more focused on the frustration side of it, the frustrating side of it. And so it was kind of expressing kind of my frustration with wanting to help my friend, but them not allowing me to get through to them. That was one side of it, and then the other side was more of a pleading, more of a desperation, kind of more of a, please let me help you kind of vibe. It was 2 different perspectives about the same situation. And then kind of like what you're saying, do you ever really want to write something? I can actually say that about this song. So I made a mistake while I was writing this. Again, this is why the songwriting system can be really helpful, because it helps you know what part of the process to start with first. I'm going to skip ahead and explain this because it's based on your question. Yeah. Okay, so if we look at step 6 says, once I feel more certain about what I'm going to write about, use sense writing. Keep that in mind, sense writing, to go even deeper and come up with more detailed lines. I can use sense writing for each section of the song as long as I know what I'm trying to say in that section and have some kind of prompt to explore the feeling. Okay, sense writing, that is one of my favorite songwriting exercises, okay? What is sense writing? So I'm trying to see if I can show an example here. Let me see if I have any sense writing examples. I don't know if I do. I've got the one that I used for this song. Okay, so what sense writing is when... Okay, let me see. What is this? Okay, interesting. I'm kind of reading some of the ones. I got to be a little honest. So the sense writing stuff, I'm a little scared to share it because some of it's just personal and vulnerable. So we'll see what I share and what I don't. But here's how sense writing works. So sense writing is, you think of a certain experience in your life and you try to write. You write about it. You set a timer for 10 minutes, okay? And that's very important. You have to set a timer for 10 minutes, and you say, go. You hit time. And in 10 minutes, you're writing out, you're telling the story of what happened, but it's very important that you use your senses to describe the story. So you're describing what you saw, but you're also describing what you could hear and what you could see and what you could smell and what you could taste and what you could feel on your skin, but also what you felt emotionally. And you describe like the visuals of that situation. And what happens is when you first write, it might be a little rough, but the more you do it, you start getting better at finding good metaphors and good analogies, like good lines for describing. Let me see here. I'll talk more about it in a moment, but basically what happened with this song was I wrote about a particular experience that I had. Again, if we want to talk about like, somehow if we're talking about a moment that I maybe regret, or a moment where I felt like I had the shot and I missed it, I did have such a moment in my life. And so I was thinking about that moment, and I did the sense writing exercise, and I did everything I could to just write in as much detail, like the sense, engaging all my senses in describing that event. And what that does is, once you do it, once the timer's up, you stop and you go through and you pick like the best lines. You pick the ones where it's like, oh, that's a really good description. Like the more you use your senses to describe the way you felt or what you saw in that moment, that's the kind of stuff you want to use in your lyrics. Because lyrics, you're not just telling the listener how you felt. The purpose of lyrics is to translate your emotions. And ideally, you're trying to help the listener feel that too. Like, think about it. Have you ever heard a song that just so perfectly described how you felt? Like, goodness, I remember, when I first got my heart broken, I remember hearing the song Good Enough by Evanescence. And the first time I heard that song and I could hear those lyrics, it made me cry. And that's the first time song lyrics had ever made me cry, because that was the first time the words had ever so perfectly described how I felt. And that's when I was like, I get it now. I get why lyrics are so important. When I was younger, before I had like a whole lot of life experience, I just kind of wrote about the same things that the bands I was listening to, the stuff they wrote about. But I didn't really have anything to say. And then once you actually experience something, and then you hear a song that just so accurately describes the words, like, oh my gosh, I know what that's like. That describes how I feel. It makes the song more meaningful, and it helps it connect. I've heard songs that describe like my relationship with like a family member, like a brother or my dad or my mom. I've heard songs that describe, my dreams and my passions. Just whenever you hear a song and the words just so accurately describe it, that's a real craft. And the only way we do that as songwriters is by really engaging the senses, like doing our best. You've got to put visuals in the listener's mind. When someone hears your song, you can't just tell them what you felt. You can't just tell them what to feel. You have to make them feel that by engaging their senses, by helping them visualize and helping them imagine and sort of relive and sort of re-experience for themselves what it was. So all that to say, I did a sense writing exercise, and I loved the stuff I came up with. I was like, man, that is heavy, that hits hard, but I barely used any of it in the song, and it's because I did it too soon. I wrote it before I knew what the song was going to be about. So now the good news is I still have it. Like, I can write a song based on that experience, but so that's what I would say is what kind of happens is sometimes you come up with an idea, maybe a meaningful word or a phrase or an idea. And that happens. It doesn't always work, but that doesn't mean you have to get rid of it and never use it again. It just means I'll have to save that for another song. So that's what I have to do in this case. In this case, I wrote something that I really like, but I'll just have to save it for another song. I'll have to write a song specifically for that purpose. Becky was saying, sometimes when I'm listening to a song, I don't understand a lyric, or I misinterpret a word or something else, and eventually I have to Google the song because what I hear makes no sense. Now, that can be because of different people have different writing styles, and I'll be honest, how do I say this? It depends on the artist. It's kind of funny. So two bands that I really like, and you guys know this, I love Chevelle, and I like Breaking Benjamin. And from a musical standpoint, if you're looking at them, I would say Breaking Benjamin is the more, I don't want to say successful, but the more famous band. Like, Breaking Benjamin is more popular than Chevelle. But from a musical standpoint, for me, just being honest, I think Chevelle is just as good, if not better. Part of me is like, I like Chevelle's songs better. I think they sound killer. I think their songs, they just hit me emotionally more than Breaking Benjamin. How come Breaking Benjamin is more popular? And it's not till I really started getting into songwriting, like paying attention to lyrics. If you compare the lyrics of Breaking Benjamin and Chevelle, it's kind of night and day. As much as I love Chevelle, probably my biggest critique about them, sometimes it's hard to tell what they're talking about. Sometimes they write lyrics. I'll be honest, there was even one song that I liked, and I was like, I'm going to learn this song to do for my acoustic stream. And I was trying to learn the lyrics, and as I was learning it, I was like, I literally don't understand what the heck this song is about. It literally just sounds like a bunch of random words. And as much as I love Chevelle, I got to say, that's probably the thing that has kept them from being as popular as a band like Breaking Benjamin. The thing about Breaking Benjamin, some people might argue that maybe Breaking Benjamin's lyrics, they have some songs that are maybe too cliche. Maybe they're too generic. Generic's not the right word, but almost like maybe too blunt. But that's probably why it connects. There is no imagination. I've actually heard Nickelback talk about this. It's kind of funny. Some people criticize Nickelback a little bit, but they are very popular. They've blown up. And I forget his name. What's his name? Chad Kroger or something like that, the vocalist. But he was talking about writing lyrics. He was saying when he first started the band, he used to write these abstract lyrics, and people are like, "What does the song mean?" Like they couldn't get it. So then he just started writing like the clear as day, straightforward, blunt lyrics, and that's when they started like really blowing up because people could understand the meaning better. So it's kind of artistic preference. Like there's nothing wrong with writing really abstract lyrics and letting people dive in. And some people like that. There are people that appreciate sort of abstract lyrics that you kind of have to interpret for yourself and sort of figure out what you think the song means. Some people like that. But the majority of people probably like clear as day lyrics, lyrics that are a little more blunt, a little more straightforward. And there's kind of a balance. There's like a balance between like abstract enough that there's some metaphor and some interesting visuals there, but not so abstract that it's hard to understand. And you want to be clear enough that people can understand it and they can relate to it, but not so clear, so blunt that there's, no emotion behind it. There's no craft behind it. Or maybe it even just comes off sounding kind of cheesy and kind of corny. So, so good questions, Becky. Let's see here. And let's see here. I've been getting better at understanding those certain word pronunciations. Yep, indeed. I started listening to Chevelle because Ben likes them. Yeah, I could see him like, again, musically, I still, like if I had to choose, I would probably pick Chevelle over Breaking Benjamin. But objectively speaking, I think Breaking Benjamin writes better lyrics. And, for me, I enjoy, like I would say music is more of a priority to me than lyrics. Like someone can write an amazing, some amazing lyrics, but if I don't really like the music, I'm probably not going to listen to it, Whereas someone can write amazing music, and even if the song, like if it doesn't make sense, I'm not really going to care that much. Again, I'm not really going to be able to appreciate it as much as I could. So ideally you want both. Ideally you want awesome music and awesome lyrics. But if I had to pick one, I tend to lean more towards the music side of them. But yeah, so I'm definitely not criticizing Chevelle. I'm just pointing out, those are two bands that are fairly similar, but probably the thing that differentiates them is the clarity of their lyrics. Okay, so step 2 was describing the mood of the music and then trying to write down like certain situations or circumstances where you maybe felt that way. And so it's kind of just a general idea. So that takes us to step 3. So now we have kind of a general idea. Well, maybe the song could kind of be about this, pull the trigger. Maybe this is a song about regret, or maybe this is a song about denial, or a song about learning to move on, or, I'm not really sure. That's just a general idea. So then what is really helpful is we want to use the general idea with another exercise called course prompts, okay? The course prompts exercise to go deeper. And what this does, this can help pull out this can kind of give us some prompts of what the song could be about, and then you want to pick the ideas that you're most drawn towards and then start coming up with title ideas and a message. So let me show you what this looks like. Course prompts. Let me see if I can find that real quick. I've got it here somewhere. Again, you'll have to forgive me. This is my workshop, so everything's kind of scattered all over the place. But somewhere around here, I have a section for course prompts. Courses, is it here? Title ideas. No, I don't think that's it. Is it here? I'm trying to find it. So I think this was an exercise that I got. Shout out for anyone who is trying to write lyrics. There's a YouTube channel called How to Write Songs. Straightforward, just called How to Write Songs. And they've got some pretty helpful tools. They're the ones who actually taught me how to do sense writing, which is probably one of my favorite exercises. Song plots, that's helpful. That's kind of something we might come up with next. Man, where is this at? I saw it a moment ago. I will find it. But somewhere I've got something called course prompts. Maybe it's here? Where is this at? Rust. I see song plots. Here we go. There we go. Course prompts. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, so what the course prompt is, so here's why you want to start with your course. Your course is the whole reason for your song. The course is the main point of your song. So it really helps if you can figure out what your course is, if you can figure out what your song is about and what you're trying to say in the song, it makes it so much easier to map out the rest of the song. So I've got a few prompts here, but I'm actually going to look for, give me a second here, I'm going to look for the actual note. I can find it. It should be tools. That doesn't seem right. Documents. I've got it here somewhere. Songwriting. Sorry, I'm looking through my notes. I just found it. Songwriting prompts. Man, I don't know where it's at. Sorry, I should have had this stuff a little more prepared. But basically what course prompts are, it was just a note, and it gives you like 10 prompts. And you just finish the sentence. That's all you have to do. So for example, this first one here, the prompt is, so I realized blank. Okay? So again, if I'm writing songs, so when I was writing this song, if I was feeling like, okay, this might be a song about regret, and I'm thinking about a time that I was in regret, let's see what I wrote here. So the prompt was, so I realized I'm ready to be in love again. Okay. Or I realized I'm different. I'm not like everyone else. Or I realized I never stopped loving you. Maybe that's what I realized. Maybe the song is I regret someone and I'm realizing that I still love this person. Maybe I realized I'll never reach my potential if I stay here. That's the thing too. You guys know this song, Pull the Trigger. You know it's about a missed opportunity with a relationship. But I wasn't set on that idea yet. I had other ideas, and one of my ideas was maybe feeling like I'm stuck, like this one right here. So I realized I'll never reach my potential if I stay here. That's something that I'm kind of currently dealing with, sort of feeling like sometimes I kind of feel like I'm the big fish in the pond, but like I'm wanting something bigger, and as long as I stay surrounded by, like I'm a dreamer, but I wouldn't say I'm surrounded by other dreamers, And if I stay here, my dreams might die. So I might need to surround myself with other dreamers if I'm ever going to reach my dreams, if I'm ever going to reach my full potential. So that was another route of a song that this song could have been about. Let me catch up with the chat real quick. I don't really understand the lyric, carry me over the ground, heavy won't hold me down, from Breaking Benjamin. And that's not to say that all their lyrics are clear as day, but I'm sure there's a few. Carry me over the ground, heavy won't hold me down. The heavy won't hold me down sounds like going to keep persevering, but carry me over the ground, maybe overcoming the obstacle or something. Silas was saying, what's awesome is when a song fits a movie super well, like the themes of a movie and a message go in a song. Yeah, and you can do that. I mean, heck, you can write a song about a movie. You could listen to the emotions of the music and describe them, and you can say, these emotions, they kind of describe this movie. I might write about that, and you could just use the movie to inspire lyrics. You could use the visuals of the movie to inspire or moments, scenes in the movie to inspire lyrics that you might write. I actually wrote a song I wrote a song a while back called Vanquished. It was for my band, my old band. And the song was based off of an anime called, what's it called? Angel Beats. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. If you watch anime, there's a show called Angel Beats. And the concept of the show is it's sort of these characters in this kind of limbo, like they've died, but they're not in heaven. They haven't gone on to the afterlife. And the concept is the reason they're left behind is because they have unfinished business. I think that's what it is. Or I think it's something that they have to learn to accept. I think they were treated unfairly in life. I think it's something like that. I think they didn't get a chance at life, like they died before their time, and so the reason they're not able to go on is because they can't accept that they're dead or something like that. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I can't remember. But I think I use that to inspire this idea of life being unfair, but all you can do in life is just, you have to learn to accept, to take the cards that you've been dealt with and just make the best you can of your life. That was sort of the message of the song, but it was inspired by that show. And I would use literal visuals. It's kind of funny. I think one of the lyrics was, one of the lyrics for the song is, "Through this, I will feel every bit of pain, but I will never die." And that sounds like a deep lyric, right? Like that sounds really deep. I'm going to feel every bit of pain, but I'll never die. But you know what's funny? That's actually a literal lyric, because in the show, they can't die. They still feel pain, but they can't die. So I'm actually just describing something literal from the show, but it sounds very like kind of deep and like metaphorical in the song, but I'm actually describing something. So yeah, so writing a song based off of a movie or a show or something can be a great way, a great source of inspiration for lyrics. Becky was saying, I agree. The best part of the Transformers movies for me is the soundtrack. Are the songs actually about Transformers though, or does it just have a good selection of songs? I'm not sure. I'd have to revisit the Transformers soundtrack. Becky was saying, I understand that, Quincy. You'd probably be successful in New York or LA if people in Virginia don't listen to a lot of rock, or even London. And yeah, you're probably not wrong about that. Now, I'm not going to use that as like an excuse, as because if I really wanted to, I could move there, and sometimes a move is what's needed, but it just depends, and it's not always. But you are kind of the average of the people you surround yourself with. And it's kind of funny because my mom actually says she's really sweet. My mom, she'll say, sometimes I think you were born into the wrong family. Like, she wants me to succeed in my music. And so she's like, I wish, if you were born into a family that had like the resources and they were tied in with the entertainment industry, she's like, you'd be famous by now or something. And but I always reassure her that no, I think I was born in exactly the right family. In fact, if I was born in a family like that, I probably wouldn't be grateful for music and art, and I'd probably become entitled or selfish or something like that. I think my family has maybe given me sort of kept me grounded, kind of given me a sense of gratitude and a good work ethic, so that if I ever do succeed in my pursuits, I'll have a sense of gratitude for that. Cool. All right, well, let's look at some more of these course prompts. So again, one prompt could be, so I realized blank. Another one could be, so I decided blank. Another one could be, so I'm going to blank. Or another one, that's why I always say blank. What I really need to tell you is blank. Because think about it, that's what your course is doing. The course is like, in the course, you're saying, that's when I realized blank. And then you just say what you realized. That's when I decided blank. And that's why I always say blank. That's what your course is. These are prompts to kind of give you an idea of what you're trying to say in your course. So let's see here. I've got, so I decided I'm going to get out and start meeting people. So I decided I'm going to live life the way I'm meant to, So I decided I'm going to embrace who I am, okay? Let's keep going here. So I'm going to, some of them are similar, so I'm going to get out and meet people, be intentional. That's why I always say there's always something new to learn, okay? That's kind of interesting. That's why I always say there's always something new to learn. That's why I always say sometimes you're the teacher, other times you're the student. It all comes back to balance. That's why I always say it all comes back to balance. That's why I always say make it count. Here's here's a personal one. What I really need to tell you is, and I wrote, thank you for helping me. What I really need to tell you is thank you for shaping me into who I am today. What I really need to tell you is thanks for being such a good friend. What I really need to tell you is I wish I enjoyed our time while we had it. What I really need to tell you is you're the most important person I've ever met. I've moved on, but a part of me will always love you. That's kind of what you're writing. You're trying to write down like the stuff that you're trying to figure out. What am I trying to say in this song? And basically you go through all the prompts, and then you filter out. You pick the ones that you're drawn to, the ones that are like, man, that one really, something about that one speaks to me. That one's really, really relating to me. So those are the ones that you want to pick. And that might be when we move on to song plots. Let me see here. So you go through the course prompts to go a little bit deeper. Then you pull the ideas that you're most drawn to, and that's when you start coming up with title ideas and a message. So based off of that, now you're trying to figure out, okay, what could some titles be related to this, and what might this song be about? What might this song be about? And that's sweet of you to say, Becky, saying, I love how much you love your family. The older I get, the more I realize how fortunate I am. I'll never take my family for granted, just because I realize that my family isn't the norm. Like what I have, I've got 6 other siblings. We have a family of 9 in total. Some people only have a family of 4, and they barely get along. My siblings are some of my best friends. I greatly admire my parents. Some people can't stand their parents. And, the way I grew up, I just thought that's how it is. I didn't realize other families were quite different than what I had. So the older I get, I start to realize, wow, what we have as a family is not the norm. And so it makes me more grateful for that. Like I try very hard to never take it for granted, because it's not the norm. It's not what most people have. It's not what most people experience with the family. Let's see here. So when it comes with titles, let's see what I've got here. So here were some of the titles that I had, kind of based off of some of the things I was writing. I came up with a title, Waking Up in Tears. I think I read some of these to you guys already. If I Had Known, If Only I'd Known, Just Because, Make It Count, Look But Don't Touch. Those were kind of some lyrics. Eventually I might have come up with Pull the Trigger. I think Make It Count was like a big one that I was playing with for a while. And then I was trying to figure out, what is this a song about? Is it about regret? Is it about denial? I was trying to figure out, what's the message of the song? What am I trying to say? What's the point? What am I trying to talk about? So that's kind of the next thing you try to figure out. All right, once you've done that, so once you've kind of got some title ideas, now it's time to get the rust out. And this is a very relieving step. So what that means, get the rust out, means you just need to write a bunch of different verses and choruses. Like you're not writing the whole song, you're just writing a verse and a chorus. That's it. And you're also trying different title variations. And all you're doing, you're just getting the rust out. So in other words, you are intentionally trying to write something bad. You're intentionally trying to just write the most cheesy, generic lyrics you can. You're not trying to write a good song. You're just writing. That's all you're doing. And this is very freeing because, again, especially for me as like a perfectionist, sometimes I'll write one line and be like, that's stupid, and it's just one line. You can't judge one line on its own yet. You got to write a few lines and then you can go back and rewrite them. So that's why I say it's really important to remember that great songs aren't written, they're rewritten. So getting the rust out is just really helpful. Like, just don't put any pressure on yourself. Just write the first thing that comes to mind. Don't worry about making it rhyme. Like, try to make it rhyme, and if you can't think of a rhyme, either come up with a stupid one or just write a line that doesn't rhyme at all. So here we go. So here's an example of rust. Let's see what I wrote. I'm kind of curious. This is probably going to be rough, guys. This is like intentionally bad stuff. So I've got, my heart aches. You are my everything. I'll never let you go. Give you my heart when you walk into my room. My dreams come true. Let's see. All right. Okay, so I have a verse here. When you walked into the room, I could hardly take my eyes off you. I had waited for this time when my dreams would finally come true. Let's see here. I would never let you go. And I can even sing this. The song, Pull the Trigger. Let's see here. Like, I wrote this with the song in mind. So these are like really lame, cheesy lyrics. Let me get the key in my head. All right, here we go. So like I can sing these for you. I would never let you go. You could always keep your trust in me. But I never thought someday you would change your mind and choose to leave. I thought that... Okay, that's the chorus right there. I got you. All right, so if we get to the chorus... So yeah, I'm writing verses, like just really cheesy verses. I'm reminded of what could have been. And then here's like a chorus. I thought that you were dead and gone, but you've been with me all along. In my dreams, my heart is aching painfully. Is this what love's supposed to be? So sheesh, man, those are some pretty cringy lyrics, huh? But that's what you start with. You kind of start with that stuff, and it just helps you get the rust out. You get the bad ideas out, and then you start digging for those little nuggets of gold, like, well, hey, if I tweak that, that could actually be pretty good. Or, you know, there's an idea here. Or it's a little easier to look at it and see what needs to be fixed. Like, you can kind of see the problems and then come up with solutions to fix them, you know? Actually, that kind of makes sense. Like, you can't fix problems if you don't know the problems are there. So think about it. When you're writing a song, your first problem is, I don't know what to write about. So the only problem you need to solve is, I just need to figure out what to write about. That's the first problem you're trying to solve. So you write down a bunch of stuff, and then you pick the stuff that you're kind of drawn towards. It's like, okay, and now I know what I'm writing about, but I don't know, you know, I don't have a verse yet. I don't have a chorus. It's like, okay, well, you don't need to write a good verse. You don't need to write a good chorus. You just need to write a verse and a chorus. And then you can look at the problems and see how to make it an actually good verse or an actually good chorus. So hopefully that makes sense. And let's see, catching up with the chat. Waking Up in Tears, that sounds like a good song title. Well, I'll keep that in mind that you said that. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you can come up with these titles, and just because I didn't use them for this song doesn't mean I can't save those ideas for later. I can go back and pick the ideas that I didn't use, but I still like them, and keep them in my collection, and maybe use them for something else. There are some songs with no chorus, like Bob Dylan's Hurricane. If you haven't heard that one, you've got to hear it. I'll look it up. I've maybe heard that. I haven't listened to a whole lot of Bob Dylan stuff. But you're right. Some songs just have verses. Some tell stories. So there's definitely there's more than one way to write a song. Not every song has verses, choruses, and bridge. In fact, I mean, think about it. My song... What is it? My song, Farewell to Fear, it's got verse, chorus, but then it ends with the bridge. It doesn't go back to the chorus like a lot of songs do. And that's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes it just kind of depends on what works for the song. But even still, I would say, even if your song doesn't have a chorus, these exercises can still be helpful to help you figure out the main point of your song. Like, what's the main thing you're trying to say? Because again, there's no rules, but the problem with no rules is it gives you option paralysis. Like, when you tell someone you can do whatever you want, it's kind of funny because sometimes they're like, well, I don't know what to do. Like, even though you tell me I can do anything I want, that doesn't make me feel free, like, oh, I can do whatever I want. It just makes me feel lost and like, well, I don't know which way to go. I don't know what I should do. But when you have somewhere to start, when you have guidelines, it at least gives you a place to start, and then you can change directions if you want. You can always start with this stuff just to get the brainstorm happening, just to get the ideas flowing, and then you can always go a different direction. So get the rust out. That's really helpful. But eventually you want to try to write a proper course. And so then let's see. Step 5 is the song plots. So this is where you're kind of mapping out the rest of the song. So this exercise is good for finding some unique directions you could go based on the title and the general idea. So that's kind of the thing. You might know like generally what you're trying to say, but this song plot exercise is really good for giving your song more depth. So it's not just super vague. So you can kind of try to map out the song, and if the song needs to progress with each verse. Yeah, the song needs to progress with each verse and bridge, providing a slightly different perspective that gives more weight to the chorus. So that's the whole purpose. Like, you know, again, this might be a song about regret, but I'm not just singing, like every verse, I'm not just saying the same thing over and over. Oh, I feel regret. It's like each verse you should be giving a little more context. Like you should be, ideally you're trying to make it feel a little deeper or showing a different perspective. So I'll share some of that with you. Let me find these song plots. Where are they at? They're somewhere around here. So what a song plot is, let me see. If I can find it, I could demonstrate it better. I think this is it. Here we go, song plots. Okay. So what's kind of neat, this was an exercise I had too that someone gave me. Basically, you can choose sort of a plot for what is your song about? Like, so one plot could be life could be better. That's the plot for the song. Or maybe a plot is things are happening, like things are changing. Maybe a plot is, let's see if I have any other ones. Believe something. Maybe that's what, maybe the song is just about believing something. Maybe the plot is, okay, those are the only ones I have here. So the point of the plot is very general, but then you take your ideas and your situation and you make it more specific. So, for example, the plot here for life could be better. Basically, verse 1, you start off with something positive. So you sing about the way you would like things to be. That's what you focus on. So verse 1, you're singing about the way you would like life to be. And then the pre-chorus, if there is a pre-chorus, you talk about how things are kind of changing from that. And then the chorus, that's your main point. You're talking about the way things are. That's the point of your song, which is negative. So things are bad. The verse, you're talking about how you would like things to be, but then the chorus, you're singing about the reality, which is things are bad. And then the bridge, maybe it's like, well, even though things are bad, the bridge says everything's going to be all right, So here's like my idea. So the verse could be talking about how I was once in love, and I could talk about how great that was. And then the pre-chorus, I can talk about how I chose to be alone. And then the chorus is talking about I've been alone for so long now. So it's like, I'm talking about there was a time when I once wanted to be in love, and now I'm talking about being alone. And then the bridge, it could be I'm deciding I'd like to try love again, Now, obviously, that's an idea that I didn't go with, but that was one I was playing with. Let's look at this next one. So things are happening. So what that means is the verse, you describe something that happened. The pre-chorus might be you're trying to forget about what happened. And then the chorus is talking about what's about to happen now or what's happened instead. And then the bridge is describing the realization or the life lesson. So an example of that. Oh, so here are some examples. These aren't my ideas. So an example, the verse might be talking about getting into a fight. And then the pre-chorus is talking about, so you tried to leave it behind. You tried to, you got into a fight, you wish you hadn't, you're trying to leave it behind, but the chorus is saying, so now we got to start running from the law, we never should have done that. And then the bridge is sort of the lesson, fighting leads to, sorry, I think my mic went out a little bit, fighting leads to running, that's kind of the message. Another example, maybe there was a crazy day at work, you want to leave it all behind, so that's why we're going to party all night. So that's sort of the idea here. So it looks like I'm writing. In verse 1, my ideas was I started having dreams about this person that I used to love. And then the pre-chorus, I try to ignore it. I try to convince myself I'm okay. But then the chorus is I'm I'm ready to learn how to love again. I'm ready to experience that again, or something like that. And then the bridge, maybe there's a lesson. The bridge could be a lesson. There's always a time to try again, or maybe the bridge is a realization. It's been long enough, and it's now or never. Let me see if I can find the one that I actually went with. Because I have some interesting ones here. So yeah, I'm not sure if I can actually. Maybe I found the one I went with and I scooted it up. A lot of times, like I'll sort of at the bottom of the note will be my workshop, and then if I like something, I'll copy and paste it to the top of the note, and I kind of keep like the ideas that I like best. So I'm trying to see if I have a song plot written somewhere. I don't know if I do. Let's see here. Some courses. Yeah, I'm trying to see. Okay, there's like a few things here. So you can see right here where I've got V1, C1, V2. So what I'm doing here is I'm mapping out the song. I'm trying to figure out what I'm talking about in verse 1 and then what the chorus is talking about. So this was moments with the person, and then the chorus is talking about how these moments don't last, so make it count. That's actually what started. Before I called the song Pull the Trigger, I settled on the ideal make it count. Let me see if I even mentioned that. And I'll catch up with the chat real quick. In the winter, you could record a winter edition of Farewell to Fear if the snow means, for a music video. That would be cool, but yeah, Silas might be running right now. The stream is going on a bit. It looks like there's a lot I could dive into with this because we're like halfway through the steps here. So I'll try to kind of get through the rest. Let me kind of overview these real quick. But that's what the song plots are good for. The song plots are helpful for kind of mapping out your song and sort of figuring out like what your song is about and sort of creating. Usually you want contrast in the verses and the chorus. So in other words, like if your verse is sad, your chorus is probably happy, or vice versa, something like that. Usually, your verse is basically saying, I thought this, and then your chorus is saying, but now I know this. It's like the verse is saying, I used to feel this way, and then the chorus is saying, but now I feel this way. Like there should be contrast between what you're saying in your verses and what you're saying in your chorus. Let's see, the song plot exercise is good for finding some unique, I think I read that. 6, okay, once I feel certain about what I'm going to write about, use sense writing, go deeper. So that's when you can start kind of writing and describing the feelings. And then basically once you've done that, then you kind of write your first draft, and that's 7 is rewrite and refine. So you kind of have, it's very normal, you're going to have to repeat this process, and the more you refine it, the more you get clear on what you're trying to sing about. And it says certain steps, I wrote here, you'll likely need to repeat and do over certain steps to get something that you'll genuinely be enthused about. Also, don't worry about writing the perfect verse 1 before moving on to verse 2 and so on. Get a general idea of each section, then go back over and refine. So again, that's the most important thing. Like sometimes it's so easy to get stuck on verse 1. And if you're having trouble, just write something temporary and then move on to verse 2 or move on to the bridge and then later come back and you can try fixing that. So somewhere around here, let me see if I can find it. I think originally I picked the title Make It Count. right here. So I think I realized that I wanted to focus on this song being about, recognizing an opportunity that I missed out on. And so the lesson is I don't want to take those moments for granted. I want to make them count. So let's see what we've got here. I think this was maybe my first attempt at a chorus. Yeah. So I've got Make It Count as my temporary title. And then, this was my original chorus, so I'll even sing it so you can hear it. So this was like a first draft for a chorus.
These moments never last forever.
I still kind of kept that, I just sort of changed it later.
So suddenly you realize
it's all over, regret will wear you down. And again, this is me kind of, I'll explain why this doesn't fit great. So don't forget to make it count. So that was going to be the original tagline. So don't forget to make it count. And I was trying to find some way to set that up with a rhyme. So I wrote, regret will wear you down. Because sometimes that helps. Sometimes you need to forget about the rhyme, you need to forget about the rhythm, and you just need to write, like, what am I trying to say? So what I was trying to say is, regret will wear you down, so don't forget to make it count. That's what I was trying to say. And but the problem was I couldn't get that to fit. You know, regret will wear you down. I couldn't get it to fit with the melody. I couldn't get it to fit. So it's almost like that's what I'm trying to say, but then you try to write different variations. Like here I've got the moment's gone before you know it, so don't forget to make it count. That was another version. Yeah, I was basically trying to find different ways of saying regret will wear you down, or you know, the moments never last forever. Eventually, somehow, I wish I could see. I'd have to dig through my notes, but somehow I came up with pull the trigger. I'm trying to see. Here is a chorus here, but I don't know if that's where I wrote it. I'm trying to see if I can track it down. There's the chorus, like eventually I wrote it. Yeah, I don't know. You just kind of keep writing variations. But at some point, I think make it count was probably too vague for me. Like, it kind of worked, but I was like, and it was also hard to find a rhyme, so I was like, well, is there some other way to say make it count? And so somehow that led me to coming to the concept of pull the trigger, which to me was more powerful because it puts more of a visual in your head, and we kind of know what that means. You know, make it count is still a little vague. Pull the trigger is like a more visual, kind of a stronger way of saying the same thing, like commit, you know, make it count, pull the trigger. So eventually I wrote the chorus. I wish I'd had the nerve to say it. I had the shot and didn't take it. Now it's too late. A moment doesn't wait forever, so next time I'll just pull the trigger. So again, I can't remember like the order in which I came up with that. I know I wrote like a bunch of different variations. But I think like somehow I'm pretty sure there's a link between shot and trigger. So next time I'll just pull the trigger. I had the shot and didn't take it, you know, like somehow I linked that together, but it's just a process of kind of digging around with that vocabulary until you find something that works. So that's kind of what I did. And once I did that, eventually I was able to map out a song. I think the verse was going to be, I kind of had this idea, the whole like, you know, I think I wrote this lyric for something else, but I had these lyrics and they ended up working pretty good. I think I had to tweak them, but I thought you died a long time ago. I had left you in a 6-foot hole, but from time to time in my memory, I'll receive a visit from your ghost. That kind of fit. I felt like that was maybe a good, like intriguing way to start the song. But then I had to figure out, okay, so what is verse 1 talking about? And I almost wanted verse 1 to seem maybe like at first it sounds like I'm almost a little spiteful toward this person. Like, I thought you died a long time ago. You know, last time I saw you, I'd left you in a 6-foot hole. Like, I almost thought it might give off that impression. And then verse 2 kind of goes into more detail, and it's like, oh, this isn't actually somebody that I'm spiteful towards. It's actually somebody that I once deeply cared about. And then that puts a different twist on it. So that way, verse 2, I'm not just repeating a different version of what I already said in verse 1. It's like, no, I'm adding more context. I'm adding more layers to the lyrics there and kind of giving some depth. Let's see here. Becky saying, how many times have you accidentally written a song that already exists or wrote lyrics from a song that already exists? It doesn't happen very often because so often, like I'm writing specifically for a situation that I'm dealing with. It's probably more likely that you're going to write similar music you might write a melody and be like, man, that's really catchy. That sounds good. And then you realize, wait a second, that sounds like this other song. Darn it, like that's probably more likely to happen. As far as writing lyrics, that almost seems very unlikely to happen. And it also depends on what you're doing musically. Some songs, like for some people, let me see if I can explain this, but some people, they're writing songs based on chord progressions, and there are a lot of songs that use the same chord progression. So if you're using a chord progression that's already been used hundreds of times before, then yes, it's very possible that you might accidentally write something very similar to something that's already been written. For me, part of the way I'm able to avoid that is because, one, I intentionally try to look for unique chord progressions or unique rhythms. I don't try to kind of write like the stereotypical chorus that you're going to hear, especially in my style of music with like rock and metal. You can kind of get away with that a little bit. But like if you're in a genre of pop, it's, you could probably grab a bunch of pop songs that have very similar sounding choruses. I intentionally, like by design, try to put myself in a situation where it's very unlikely that I'm going to write something that sounds very similar to another song. I also, I try to use unique chords also, which kind of creates, if you have unique chord movements, you have unique melodies, which means it's going to be less likely to be very similar to something that someone else has already done. So, but it does happen. Yes, it does happen. It kind of depends. I think for my style of music, it's less likely to happen. It could still happen. And it's probably more likely going to be like a section. Like maybe I write a riff, or maybe the verse sounds very similar to another song. But so it does happen. But a big part of it depends on what style of music you're writing. Sounding great, Quincy. Well, thank you, Silas. Much appreciated. Yep, Silas was running. I'm done, but just cooling down. Well, awesome. Well, I think if you guys have any last questions, we might kind of put a wrap on this. I think the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you, I'm just going to review the final lyrics that I did come up with for this particular song. If you guys have any questions about any of my songs, any lyrics, maybe it's about this song or another song, we can look at them real quick, and I can talk about what went into it. But let me see if I have, let me see if I can find my final lyrics. Okay, so here they are. So I'm just going to kind of read them. So verse 1, we've got, I thought you died a long time ago. I had left you in a 6-foot hole. But from time to time in my memory, I'll receive a visit from your ghost. Now what's interesting, I actually didn't write those lyrics specifically for this song. I wrote them in my journal. So I keep a journal, and sometimes I'll use my journal at the beginning of my day. I usually read a little bit of the Bible, and then I'll write down what I read about and kind of write down any lesson or anything that I can apply to my life. And then I write down my thoughts and prayers. I write down things that are on my mind, what's happened lately, and just things that I'm praying about. And then sometimes if I have a little bit of room left, I will write some lyrics. Again, just kind of as an exercise. I'll just kind of force myself to just write a random lyric. And sometimes I'll write lyrics, and then later I go back through my journals and I'll be like, hey, I like that, and I'll hold on to like the good ones and maybe use them later. And that's what happened here. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you guys before, but what has happened, so the person that this song is about, I've had dreams about this person before, and the dreams really suck because they feel so real. There are so many dreams I've had where I'll see her and I'll get the opportunity to talk with her, and I'll muster up the courage to confess and say something, and it feels so real. And then I wake up and I realize, oh my gosh, I was dreaming, that it didn't happen, and it feels cruel. It just feels like, man, it felt so real. So that's what that lyric was inspired by. I think I had a dream, and I was probably pondering it, thinking about it, reflecting on it a lot. And I sort of used the analogy of death or, a grave or I was kind of thinking death, grave, ghost, that kind of thing. That was my vocabulary. So when I say I thought you died a long time ago, that's my way of saying, I thought I was over this. I thought I was over you. I thought I'd forgotten about this. That's what I was writing. I had left you in a 6-foot hole. So that's kind of my way of saying, I had moved on from this, like I don't think about you anymore. I'm fine. I'm okay. But from time to time in my memory, for whatever reason, I'll receive a visit from your ghost. And so that's referring to these dreams that I have. And then I kind of continued playing off of that. The next lyric here, I can tell you're just a dream by the way you place your lips on me, but it's never what it seems when I wake up to reality. So that's actually based on a real dream. I had a dream with this person, and hold on, I'm going to catch up with the chat here. Yeah, I remember Billy Joe Armstrong said something in an interview once about accidentally rewriting Crazy Train. Yeah, I could believe that happening. Yep. How long did it take to come up with lyrics? It really depends. So Silas, you kind of missed it at the beginning, but when if I'm ever feeling something, like even that lyric there, again, if I ever experience something and I've got a lot of thoughts and feelings in my head, if I set out to write lyrics, then it's always easier to write lyrics when you have something to say. So when you've got a lot on your mind, you've got a lot on your heart, and you just really need to get it out, it's a lot easier to write lyrics. So I've written songs in a day before. Like, I've grabbed my guitar, and 2 hours later, I've got a finished song. But that's kind of the rare case. A song like this was actually a lot harder for me to write because I didn't know what I wanted to say. I didn't know what I wanted to write about. And that's the whole point of these exercises, is to find ways to sort of conjure up emotions and figure out, like, well, what can I dig into? What can I say? And that's all you're trying to do. That's the whole point of these exercises, is you're trying to find what is on your mind and what thoughts are you currently interested in exploring. What feelings are you currently interested in expressing? And if you can find the right concept to express those thoughts and feelings, then that can ignite that passion and kind of get you like, all right, let's go. Now I got something to say. That's what you're trying to do. So this can take a while. This song, sometimes I can get a song done in a week. That's a good timeline. But sometimes it's a real grind. Sometimes you're writing and you just can't figure it out and you need to step away. That's kind of helpful too. Sometimes it's nice having a few different songs to kind of hop back and forth between. And that way, if one song's just not happening, you can try something different. And then ideally, if there's a certain song that is just working with you, like it's like, man, every time I work on the song, it's just, this one is, you're trying to find a song that's working with you, Every now and then you'll have a song that's working against you. It's like, man, I just can't figure out what to do with this song. But you want to try to find an idea that's working with you. And yeah, Becky's saying, I love metaphors. I love a good metaphor as well. I often dream about people I haven't seen for many years too. Yeah, it's frustrating. It's amazing how much that hurts. And this lyric here, I can tell you're just a dream. I had a dream once where I was talking with this person and we were having a good conversation. It was like a good, friendly conversation. And then I got kind of serious and I said, I'm scared to fall in love again. And she said, I know. And then she kissed me on the cheek, and then I woke up. And it's like, yeah, it's those type of dreams, they kind of mess with you. So that's what that's referring to. Like, I literally had a dream, and so I can tell you're just a dream by the way you place your lips on me, because that's not what reality is. It's just a dream. That's not what the reality is. And so, but it's never what it seems when I wake up to reality. So that lyric there is expressing kind of that experience of being in that dream and then waking up and realizing that's all it was. It was just a dream. So then we get to the chorus. I wish I'd had the nerve to say it. So probably based off of that prompt, like, what do I wish I'd done? It's like, now, that's the prompt of the chorus. It's like, what am I saying in this song? The whole point of this song is, I wish I'd done it. there was a time when I had the chance to say something and I didn't say it. So that's what this song is about. I wish I'd had the nerve to say it. I had the shot and didn't take it. Now it's too late. A moment doesn't wait forever. So next time I'll just pull the trigger. So the first line is expressing what I wish I'd done. I wish I'd had the nerve to say it. Okay? So that's pretty clear. There was something that I was too scared to say. And now I'm going into a little more detail. I had the shot and didn't take it. So I wish I'd had the nerve. I had a chance to say it, but I didn't. And now it's too late. So that's kind of the lesson learned. It's sort of like, I wish I'd had this. I wish I'd done this, but I didn't. And now here's the consequence of that. And then the next thing is kind of the lesson learned. A moment doesn't wait forever. So next time, I'll just pull the trigger. That's the lesson. The lesson learned is realizing from that past experience that these moments don't last forever. They don't wait around forever. So the next time you stumble on that kind of moment, just pull the trigger. Just make it count, make it happen. So that's the course. Then we get into verse 2. Let's see here. No worries. Yep, Jack tuning back in. Technical problems. Sorry you're dealing with technical problems. I'm kind of going through the lyrics for this song, and then we're probably going to wrap things up in a moment anyway. But if you've got any questions about lyrics in general, about this song, or any of my other song lyrics, if you're curious about them, feel free to ask them and I'll answer them. Silas was saying, yeah, I knew that. I just don't always write about a specific time or a specific feeling I had at a specific time. Usually specifics are good, rather than writing about generalities. It's usually good to try to be specific and write about something. That's actually kind of what makes it more unique or more relatable, or that's what helps paint a better picture or better visuals. If you're kind of too vague, then it's sometimes a little harder for people to connect with what you're saying or what you're trying to say. Sorry, Jack, I was just reading your description. Sorry, you were dealing with some technical issues, but I hope you got dinner, and I hope it's good. All right, verse 2. I have tried so hard to forget, but I guess you can't outrun regret. It was only for a moment, but the scene keeps playing in my head. You had caught me by surprise when you wrapped your arms around my side, and I knew the time was right, but instead I only said goodbye. So here's what's kind of interesting. So what I wanted to do when I mapped out the song, before I even write the lyrics, I try to map out what I'm trying to say in each section. So the song is about, I had a chance to say something, I didn't say it. The lesson is when you have those moments, take the shot, pull the trigger. So that's what the song is about. That's the chorus. Verse 1 is about these dreams. It's about me thinking that I'm well over this, still being haunted by my past. That's kind of what sets up the chorus. The verse 1 is sort of talking about something that I thought I'd gotten over, but it's still haunting me. And what's haunting me is this regret of something that I wish I'd done, but I didn't. And so that's the lesson. Now, verse 2 goes back to the moment. So it's not about the current, verse 1 is the present. I'm presently having these dreams about the past. Verse 2 is about the past. It kind of dives back into that window. It kind of takes a peek at the moment where I had the shot and I missed it. So that's kind of what you're doing in verse 2. And then the bridge is kind of the conclusion. We'll come to the bridge in a moment. Let me see something real quick. I'm kind of on the fence here. There's something I may or may not be sharing. Okay. All right. I'll be honest. I'm going to share something with you all, and we'll see what happens. This is kind of the moment, and this is sort of hard to share because this is a very specific moment that happened. But with this particular person, if there was a specific moment where I felt like there was a clear sign that maybe they still had feelings for me, this was probably it. And what happened was when I wrote this, I really like this. Like what I wrote here really resonates with me. So I'm probably gonna write a song just about this moment. The truth is though, I kind of actually imagine this as maybe more of like an acoustic song. Like this is probably gonna be a very sort of sad, vulnerable kind of acoustic song. I don't know that's gonna be like this. The imagery I was getting from this description didn't quite match the tone for this song, Pull the Trigger. But I'll read it. So this is an example of sense writing. Basically what happened was, this friend of mine, we were once in love, but eventually she said she just wanted to be friends. That broke my heart. And then after that, she's the one who wanted to be friends again. I was too scared to go up and talk to her, but she wanted to work things out and to sort of be friends. It's not that I'm not comfortable sharing it. It's just that it's not like it's a private thing. It's just that it's a special thing, So, yeah, I'm okay with talking about it, but I'm just sharing it just to show how it relates to the lyrics. But yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I'll kind of go vague with it because maybe I won't read it in detail, but basically. Yeah, Jack's still having technical issues, it looks like, but basically it was this time where I was over at her house and we were playing guitar. We had a lot of fun, but it was time for me to go home, and so she walked me out to the car, and when we walked out, it was rain, or it had been raining. I think it was like lightly raining outside, so the ground was wet. And it was just kind of a light sprinkle. And we got to my car, and it was like the moment for goodbye. And I was kind of like, all right, I'll see you later, goodbye, And I was expecting kind of this, kind of just a short, friendly hug, like a nice hug, and then let go and goodbye. And so I hugged her, but she didn't let go when I expected her to. Like she kind of held on longer than I thought. And then she made this comment. She kind of giggled and then just said, you're warm, because she was like barefoot and it was sprinkling outside. It was wet and it was kind of cold out. And so, obviously being in a hug felt a lot warmer than just being in the cold. And that was kind of caught me by surprise, and I wasn't expecting it and wasn't really sure what to say. And so if ever there was a moment that kind of confused me as to whether or not this person still had feelings, that was probably the moment there. And instead of kind of saying like, hey, like instead of using that as an opportunity to like express something or have a deeper conversation, I just said goodbye and I just went on my way. So that's kind of the moment that this is referring to. So first it kind of talks about like the moment I tried. So it's saying, I have tried so hard to forget, but I guess you can't outrun regret. So it's sort of acknowledging this is something the regret that you've tried to move on from, but it just kind of keeps playing in your head, and that's what it says. So, and it talks about how it was only for a moment. Like it's not like it was this ongoing thing. It was just a brief moment, but that's all it took was that one moment, and that scene keeps playing in my head. And then the next lyric, you had caught me by surprise. Now here's an example of where you might have to sort of change a lyric to work for a song, even if it doesn't accurately describe what happened. So to be honest, I kind of have a slight gripe with this lyric here, but I just had to say, hey, this is the best I can do. So the lyric is, you had caught me by surprise when you wrapped your arms around my side. The truth is we were hugging face to face. It was a forward hug. It wasn't a side hug, but I could not find some way to express that in a way that worked with the lyrics, like fit rhythmically with the melody and the song and rhymed. This was the best I could come up with. And at some point you just have to say, that's the best I can do. So that's what I went with. But that's an example of sort of taking a moment from real life, but then sort of having to modify it so that it works better with the song. And then I wrote, and I knew the time was right, but instead I only said goodbye. So as you can tell, like based off of the story I just told you, like describing that whole scene in the rain, that's a lot more visual than kind of what is happening here. And that's just an example of I wasn't able to fit all of those visuals into this song. So maybe for another song, it might work out better, you know? Like there's probably another song where I could focus on just that moment and I could go into all the details of, describing the sensations that were felt during that. But here's an example of me kind of referencing that moment, but the song not really allowing me to dive deeply into all the details. Then after that, of course, it goes back to the chorus. And then finally, we have the bridge. And I had to write the music first. And let me even see, what did I come up with here? So I think there's like a progression here. So again, verse 1 is talking about still being haunted by the past. Verse 2 is looking back into the past. And then bridge 3 is kind of more of an expression, like expressing, like kind of just going deeper, going more detailed into what exactly it is that I regret. Like, why do I feel this way? Why do I regret this? Why does it matter? And that's what the bridge describes. So the bridge says, there were times when I would hate myself, but you always left me with a smile. And times when I was sure you felt the same kind of feelings that I felt. You gave me every chance to share, but I kept my secrets to myself. And now you're no longer here, and I'll never know what might have been. So I remember this kind of took some tinkering with. But the reason there's regret is because at that time in my life, I didn't like myself. Like, I didn't like who I was. I kind of hated who I was, and sort of felt like I wasn't good enough. You know, I felt like I wasn't, I don't know. I felt like I wasn't good enough. That's the best way I could describe myself. And yet this person was always so kind to me. You know, she was always such a good friend to me. It's like she never treated me that way. Like I was doing that to myself. You know, I was the one treating myself like some kind of victim or some kind of, some kind of crippled dog or piece of trash. Like I was the one kind of treating myself poorly. She never did that. You know, she always left me with a smile. You know, we always had good fellowship whenever we were together. And then, there were times when I was sure you felt the same kind of feelings I felt. So talking about those confused times of trying to discern, how does this person feel about me in return? And then here's this moment, acknowledging that I had every chance to share, but I didn't. You gave me every chance to share, but I kept my secrets to myself. And now you're no longer here, and I'll never know what might have been. Now, what's interesting, I think I had, let me see if I can find them. I actually kind of liked this lyric better, but it didn't fit. So when I was brainstorming, I was writing this, let's see. So that last bit, you gave me every chance to share, but I kept my secrets to myself. I liked that. I kept my secrets to myself. But then originally, the lyric I had was, and now I'm no longer scared, but you're not here for me to tell. That was the original lyric. So the idea was, I'm not scared to talk about it now. Back then when I was younger, I was too scared to bring it up. Now I'm not scared of confrontation. Now I'm not scared to face my fears and express my thoughts or feelings. I'm not scared now, but now it's too late. So I like that lyric, and now I'm no longer scared, but you're not here for me to tell. But the only problem is it didn't fit in musically. It fit in kind of awkwardly, and it didn't flow very well. So I had to change it. And now you're no longer here, and I'll never know what might have been. So I'm okay with what the end result was, but that's kind of an example of sometimes you have an idea, and that's probably the most frustrating thing. Sometimes you know what you're trying to say, and the hardest part is just finding a way that fits well with the song. And sometimes you have to write a different variation. You have to find a different way, which that's a great tip, by the way. Sometimes Sometimes it helps just write what you're trying to say and then try to write like 10 different ways to say that same thing. Try to write 10 different variations of essentially saying that same thing. And sometimes that's a good way of finding out a good thing. So, have you ever co-written lyrics with someone? Jack is asking. I think so. Let me think real quick. I know I wrote a song with a friend. She wrote the lyrics, and I helped write the music. I might have made like some suggestions, but I didn't like totally write the lyrics. I've kind of done that a little bit. I think I haven't really had too much opportunity to co-write lyrics, to be honest. I think I've almost always had to write lyrics on my own. I wouldn't be opposed to that. You know, certainly if I got to write with somebody and they had an idea, to be honest, that would probably help. Like, there's so many times I'm writing something, and it would probably help to have someone just to bounce ideas off of and get their help. So I don't know. Maybe I need to look into that. Yeah, Becky's saying, I feel like she probably wanted more than friendship, though I don't know her, of course. It's hard, to be honest, it's really hard to tell. I know that one moment probably sounds like it, but it's so long ago that, I don't know. And now I'll never know. But yeah, that's kind of the point. But there were confusing times. There were times like, and that's the point of the bridge lyric where it says there were times when I was sure you felt the same kind of feelings I felt. Because there were times like that. And then there were other times where it seemed like what's the word? You know how sometimes like you just don't want to talk to someone, not because you're upset with them, just because you're kind of like your body language. Like someone comes up to you and you're not really facing them because you're not like, hey, I'm ready to talk to this person. You kind of just want to be left alone. There were certain times like that. There were times where by her body language, it sort of seemed like she wasn't really interested in mingling. Like she just kind of wanted to be left alone. Like she wasn't mean about it or anything. It wasn't like she was like, ew, get away from me. You know, it was never that. But there were just certain times where it seemed like she wanted to be left alone. And then other times where it seemed like she maybe still wanted something. Plus, not to mention, you know, she would get a boyfriend every now and then. So there were times where sometimes she'd be in a relationship, and I'd be like, okay, well, I guess she doesn't like me. But then she'd break up, and and I'd be like, man, do I, you know? So I was constantly in a state of, do I keep holding on or do I let go? And again, now I know I could have made that decision a lot sooner if I had just communicated with her. But yeah. What kind of guitar songs did you used to play together? Anything we might know? You know what really stinks? There was actually something really fun we were going to do. She was one of the best singers I knew, and we loved kind of just playing songs and singing together. And we were going to go busking once. I don't know if you guys know what busking is, but that's when a musician just goes out on the street and just plays songs. We were going to go to our downtown mall, and we were going to take a guitar and just learn a bunch of songs and just sing them together. You know, it was going to be fun. So that's what we did. And it wasn't always guitar. Sometimes it was piano. So we would sing, we would sing Ben Folds songs together. We would sing Jack Johnson songs together. We would sing. There were artists that she knew that I can't even remember. It was definitely a lot of like piano, pop rock, acoustic guitar kind of stuff. You know, it was definitely either happier songs or more, I'm not sure how to say it, but definitely more like kind of lovey-dovey songs, that's for sure. You know, like she and we weren't singing like heavy metal songs together or anything like that. So I wish I could remember. I'd probably have to kind of dig back. There's one song called Out of My League. I'm trying to remember who's the artist that sings that. Let me look it up. Out of My League lyrics. There's an artist called Steven Speaks. I don't know if you know who that is. And she introduced me to that. She really liked that song, Out of My League. I actually did a version of that song. I did a cover of it. And the whole reason I even did a cover was because she liked that song. So usually I don't do covers. But yeah, you know, when you like someone, they'll make you do stuff like that. You know, or they'll inspire you to do stuff like that you wouldn't normally do. So yeah, I don't know. Those are the main artists I could think of, like Jack Johnson, Ben Folds, Steven Speaks. I feel like there's maybe was it Natalie Grant? I feel like there's a few artists that I probably can't think of their name, but part of me wonders, I might still have it. We had a set list, like physical paper with songs written down. I bet I still have that, like in a box somewhere in my closet. But it never happened. Like we got together to work on it, and just life got busy. It just never happened. But that would have been fun. We did do a concert once together though. They did a benefit concert at their church, and it was me, her, and a few other people that were just performing songs just for entertainment. And I think they had some food there, and they were just raising money for a certain cause, a certain benefit. And so we performed some songs. So she and I played piano, and she would sing a song. We did one song. What was it called? I'm typing in the lyrics. Man, I can't find it. Where is it at? I was sure that would come up. All right. I think it's just called She's That Kind of Girl. That kind of girl. Makes the sun. I'm trying to find this song. Trying to help me out, AI. Man, AI is doing an awful job. To her credit, I feel like she liked a lot of artists that maybe weren't super mainstream. Like she liked some popular ones, but that's probably why I'm having a hard time remembering some of the songs that we did. But it was one song, it was some love song that we did together. We did a few other ones, but so we did, we got to sing together quite a bit. That would have been a heavy song to co-write with someone. If you're talking about that particular description, maybe. But yeah, even still, like having a co-writer, just to bounce ideas off of someone. Sometimes someone can see something from a perspective that you can't, and it just kind of gives you that idea to run with. Do you ever wonder if she may have looked you up and caught one of your live streams? She could have heard you singing about her. I'm not really concerned about that. I'm pretty sure she's a mother. She's busy with her life. And she doesn't, I haven't mentioned who she is. So, if she knows, then she'll find out, so, but, I'm not really worried about that happening. She's not really on social media also. It's, that's part of the reason I can even kind of talk a little carefree, because it's not like I still see her post or anything. It's kind of funny. There's a lot of people I really admire, and almost all of them have left social media. And I don't really blame them. Part of the reason I'm even still on social media is for two reasons. One, it was to promote my music, and even then part of me is like, I don't even know that it's working that effectively. I almost think YouTube alone is the best way just to promote my music. So that's one thing. And two, even though I don't like to hang out on social media, it is an easy way to connect with people. Like if you just want a quick update to share, like, hey, here's something I did recently, and you want to post some pictures, it is kind of handy for that. So I do like that, but I don't really hang out on social media that much either. So it's kind of funny. There's a lot of people that I really like and admire, and almost all of them, like, they were on social media at some point, and then at some point in their life, they just got off, and it seems like they just didn't look back, and I can't really blame them. A version of Let's Start Again where the chorus is a duet with someone. That's true, yeah. Kind of do the echo thing for Let's Start Again. Let's see. I love buskers. They always make shopping less boring. Yeah, I think it's fun too when you're kind of just walking down and get to enjoy someone playing. I've never heard one that had a bad singing voice. The only buskers I see around here are at the bus terminal. Yeah, I'm sure there's a few different places where they'll locate. Let's see, Jack. I think Quincy will be fine if he can overcome his shyness. People generally love people. Oh, you mean for busking? You know, people generally love people who can play music as well. Yeah, I don't have. It's actually a goal of mine at some point. I want to get back into playing live shows. So I want to write a few more songs, and then I want to take my stripped down versions and I want to go busking. I want to go downtown with my acoustic guitar and just play the unplugged version of some of my songs. And I thought it'd be fun to get like some small gigs at like a cafe and play piano, do like a piano version of some songs, just for the fun of it, you know. I need to write a few more songs so that I would have enough songs to do that kind of thing. But yeah, I would just do it for the fun of it. And then hopefully sometime down the road, I'll have the finances to hire some musicians to help me play live. Because I'd love to start playing gigs at some point. But that's future stuff, you know. Oh, thanks, Jack. That's sweet of you. I think has a lot to offer. When the time is right, he'll meet the right woman. And, you know, just so y'all know, it's kind of, I mean, I've been very open with it. I guess it just shows how much I've kind of gotten to know you all and trust you all. The weird thing about these songs is a lot of the songs I've written, they're just lessons learned, which means, like, this song isn't for me now. This song is kind of for the old me. Like, this song is for 16-year-old me. You know what I mean? And so sometimes when I talk about it, I don't mean to give the impression that, like, I'm still haunted or still struggling with these things. Like I said, I still have the dreams sometimes. And, yeah, those can be kind of tough to deal with. But it's... what am I trying to say with this? But, you know, it's just a life of thoughts and lessons that I've learned, and then now writing more songs to explore these thoughts. You know, there's probably a lot of thoughts that I haven't had a chance to dive into. And so it's kind of the same thing with like Plastic Cup. Like, I remember when I wrote Plastic Cup, the only kind of frustrating thing with that song is, I mean, you know, the chorus says, would someone just show me some love and tell me that I'm good enough? That's not how I feel now. You know, it's like, that's a song about a time when I felt that way. But sometimes when I write that song and then I talk about the lyrics, people are like, oh, Quincy, you are good enough. You know, it's like, it's like, no, it's like, I know that. It's like, I know that now. This is a song about when I didn't know that. This is a song about, you know, the younger me that had to learn that lesson. And so that's kind of how I feel with a lot of these songs. I'm writing songs about past experiences that I've had. But these songs aren't for who I am now. These songs are for the person that's going through that now, you know? Somebody hears the song and they can learn from this, you know? They can hear that maybe there's someone right now that they hear the song Pull the Trigger and they're dealing with something. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be like a love situation, but maybe there's someone that they've got like a dream. They've got something that they feel a longing to do, but they're just too scared to step up and pull the trigger. And they just need to hear a song that just tells them, like, hey, here's what happens if you don't do that. You know, if you let fear win, you're left with regret. So take a lesson from this old man and, you know, pull the trigger, you know, go for it, you know, do it. So that's kind of how I view a lot of these songs. A lot of times I'm writing from past experiences, but it's not just for myself. It's for the benefit of, like I said, remember, I was talking about that song Good Enough by Evanescence. That song meant so much to me at the time when I heard it, you know? And so that's who the song is for. It's a song for that person who needs to hear it at that time in their life. And that's kind of how I view lyrics. You know, I've got plenty of past experiences and current experiences. Yeah, I had a feeling someone might comment me calling myself an old man. Yeah, maybe I'm not old yet, but older, you know? Old enough to at least have some advice that I can share to people younger than me, you know? And thanks, yeah, Silas saying amazing, that can always help people. And that's kind of the idea, you know, just to write something meaningful, something that's gonna, I just know what it's like when you hear a song that just, it's like, man, wow, that song really describes how I feel. And that's it. I tell you what, I've seen people leave comments before of other artists. Maybe it's someone like Breaking Benjamin or Linkin Park, and I read comments of people saying stuff like, man, this song saved my life, or, oh no, they're lagging on Becky's end? Hopefully it's not lagging. But I've heard people leave comments like, man, this song saved my life, or this album, this band, it got me through so many hard times. And I just hope, I hope that's what my music does someday. Like, that's my biggest goal. Like, I'd love to write songs and know that there's someone out there that's like, this song kept me going. This person, their songs really helped me through some hard times. That's the kind of music I want to write. Becky was saying, yeah, you'd be a great busker, Quincy, but I think I was mostly talking about finding love. Maybe I missed that. Did I miss something? Or was it just lagging that threw off? Trying to read. Yeah, maybe just something got mixed up. Oh, I see. The shyness part. Is that what you mean? I think Quincy will be fine if he can overcome his shyness. People generally love. Yeah, if you just mean talking to people, I'm not really shy. Again, it's more so putting myself in a situation where I meet people. I've talked about that before. I'm trying to get out, to meet more people, to connect with people, and there's a little bit of exercise learning how to talk to people, but it's not like I've seen someone yet where I'm like, hey, I find that person attractive. That hasn't been the problem. It's not like, man, I keep seeing attractive girls, but I'm too shy to talk to them. That hasn't been the problem. It's like, no, I can't seem to find anyone who seems to be around my age. And if they are around my age, do we have anything in common? And if we do have anything in common, are they even, it's like just finding people compatible for friendship and someone compatible for more than that, But again, I think it's just a numbers game. I think it's just a matter of you just got to keep getting out there and keep doing it. And, in time it can kind of happen. Let's see. Hopefully you're back, Becky. Sorry you were lagging and I was seeing you were having to refresh. Silas is saying, so quite a few songs I've written are things everyone goes through, and I write it in a way that it can go out to everyone. Well, see, that's kind of the thing is there's nothing wrong with that, and you could try that. But a very common tip for songwriters is to actually write more specific, writing about your specific experiences, because somehow it helps people relate to that. I can write a sad love song about someone that I really loved, and I can describe the details, and it might sound very specific to my situation, but when someone hears that song, they say, I know what it's like to love someone like that. I know what it's like to hurt like that. It paints a picture and it helps them better relate. If I just talk about, if you just use general terms like, don't give up, hang in there, be strong, and, life gets tough, but just keep moving on, If you kind of write stuff, it's like, it's almost too vague. It doesn't describe a specific scenario where somebody can like really picture themselves in that situation. And yeah, Becky's saying, so many people say that on Breaking Benjamin vids. Yep. I know you described yourself as an introvert, so I assumed you were shy. You're not wrong. Introvert doesn't necessarily mean that I'm shy. It just means that I get more energy being by myself. Being around people is very draining to me. That's all it means. Like, if I have I can enjoy social interaction. I can have a great conversation with someone and enjoy it, but after a while, I just need my alone time. I just need to get away from people. That's how I recharge. That's how I find, that's how I get my energy back. So that's really it. And where I find my best state of focus and flow and where I thrive is oftentimes being to myself, being alone in my own thoughts. That's kind of what it means to be introverted. It doesn't automatically mean that I'm shy. It just means that I tend to function better on my own. Now that doesn't mean that I don't have a desire to connect with people. Clearly, I do have a desire to connect with people, but being it definitely takes a little bit of effort. It takes a little bit of effort to do that. So yeah, it's not like, oh, I'm shy and I'm intimidated to go up and talk to someone. No, I can do it. So it depends on the scenario. Some scenarios are harder than others. There's some scenarios where it's like, I really have to make myself go up and talk to someone. And then there's other scenarios where it's pretty effortless, and it just kind of depends on the environment. You're the greatest expert on you. Yeah, if you're talking about in general, yeah, someone talking about themselves or knowing themselves best. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's if you're trying to give advice, no one knows yourself better than you. The only person who knows you better than you is the person who made you. That would be God. So. But what makes it draining for me? For me, it's just putting on an act. Now, are you introverted yourself? Do you find it draining connecting with people? I just mean like physically draining. Let me see if I can explain that better. It makes me mentally tired or emotionally tired. That's what I mean. Like I could think of it this way. Imagine an amusement park. I don't know if you like amusement parks. I love amusement parks. I can go to an amusement park and spend all day like hitting up every ride and watching all the shows, and I can have such a fun day. And when I get home, I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to be tired, and I'm not tired because I had a bad time. I'm not tired because I hated what was happening there. I'm tired because I spent energy. It took energy for me to get out and make that thing happen, And so, one, I need sleep. I need sleep to rest. And two, sometimes I need some time to gain clarity for myself. Sometimes I need time to sit on what I just experienced and kind of sit with those thoughts and think about them and process them. That helps me sort of recharge and gain a sense of readiness. Like, okay, I'm ready to I feel recharged. I'm ready to get back out and take on the next thing, whatever it might be. So when I say draining, I don't mean that like talking with people is exhausting in a negative way. I mean, it's the same thing as exercise. Working out is good for you. And working out sort of simultaneously drains you, but also makes you stronger and makes you better and makes you more like lively. Like it's kind of hard to explain. It's the same thing like when I have a good experience with someone, like there's a certain high that I kind of get. Like if I have a good interaction with someone, if there's someone I have good chemistry with and we have a good conversation, I can walk away and I'll be thinking all about that, But again, simultaneously, it's like, I don't know, like I'll probably have to think on it myself just to find the right words to articulate it. But it's like, I can walk off feeling so, inspired and so delighted by that experience. But then at the same time, it's like I'm not ready to just dive back in. It's like, okay, now I need some time to myself to just kind of recoup and recharge, even though I did enjoy that. So hopefully maybe that kind of makes sense. Becky was saying, I always try to appear happier than I feel when I'm around people. Yep, I'm happier alone or just with a cat. And yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily. Like if I'm being honest, I'm probably a similar way. Like I don't really enjoy social gatherings. What I do enjoy, and Becky, I would actually believe that you probably would enjoy this too. I think this is probably true for introverts. If you consider yourself more introverted, I enjoy one-on-one connection. I enjoy just having one meaningful conversation with somebody that I have good chemistry with. Like that's what I really enjoy. I enjoy that much more than just being at like a social gathering and mingling with a bunch of different people. I have a much more meaningful experience if I just have one deep conversation with somebody that I really get along with, rather than having a bunch of shallow conversations with a bunch of people about things that I honestly don't really care that much about. But I think now, as far as like happiness and that kind of thing, how do I say this? I don't know. That's a good word. I don't think there's anything wrong with being honest. Like for me, when I go to a social setting, like For example, I don't know if I told you guys this. This Saturday, I'm going to something called emo karaoke. I don't know if I told you guys about that, but emo karaoke, it's a local event happening in my town. And again, I got to go to this because it's karaoke. It's going to have a live band playing songs from a bunch of bands that I grew up with in high school. You know, if ever there's a chance to meet people around my age who maybe share a common interest with me, that's probably a good place to do it. So I'm making myself go out to do that. Now, if I'm being honest, when I walk into that room, I'm going to have an adrenaline rush. Like, I'm not going to walk into that room and be like, I'm so excited. I can't wait to, let me find someone to talk to. Like, no, I'm probably going to be kind of intimidated. I'm probably going to be kind of like antsy, kind of like, man, how's this going to go? Am I going to meet something, am I going to find someone and have a good conversation with this? Am I going to find a girl that I'm attracted to? Or is no one going to be attracted? Is it going to be a bunch of, maybe it's a bunch of people that maybe we like the same music, but maybe we don't get along other than that. Maybe we don't have similar values or things like that. Like, I'm not sure what to expect. I'm very much, like, anxious isn't the right word, but certainly very much anticipating, like I'm not sure what's going to happen. So it's like, yeah, happy's not the right word to describe. Am I happy about this? I don't know. Happy's not really the right word. Because I would describe it as intimidating, but I recognize it as good for me. I recognize it as a good opportunity. I recognize the potential for something good to come from it. And there's a fine line between anxiousness or nervousness and excitement. And so I think it's possible to be both. It's possible to be both nervous about something, but also excited for the possibility of what could come out of it. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, guys, I'm probably gonna have to wrap this up, but I enjoy this deeper conversation. Let me see if I can catch these few last comments. I get that. I'm an introvert who has to act like an extrovert on the daily. I like trying to help people feel comfortable, but it's an effort. And I think some of you have even said this. A lot of people, they watch these streams. Some people think people are surprised when they find out I'm an introvert because apparently I do such a good job coming off as so lively. And I don't know how to explain that. I just, it's a skill. And skills can be developed. Like, they can take practice. Like, just because socializing is tough for introverts doesn't mean you can't learn how to socialize. And it doesn't mean you can't come off as friendly. And there's nothing wrong with choosing to do that. I think it's a good thing. I think when you're in a setting and you're around people, that's something I practice. When I go to the skate park and I'm walking by people on the way to the skate park, I make an intentional choice to look at that person and smile at them and, like, give a nice friendly nod. I don't have to do that. You know what my instinct wants to do? You know what my feelings want to do? My feelings want me to just ignore everyone and just kind of zone in on myself. But who I want to be says I want to lift up people around me. I want to be friendly. I want to be approachable. I want people to leave with a good, I want people to leave feeling better after they've encountered me. So I will look at people and I'll give them a friendly wave or a smile, because I also know that can mean a lot to someone. Someone can be walking by and then just someone showing a friendly smile, just, waving, like, that can mean a lot. I know what it means. So that's who I want to be. It might take effort. Just because it takes effort doesn't mean it's not genuine, In fact, that's the whole point. Like, that's exercise. If you're trying to get stronger at something, it's the only way you grow is by putting forth effort, So, it's not like you're being disingenuine. It's just a choice. Disingenuine is when you really hate people. Disingenuine is when you're trying to deceive people. That's the difference. There's nothing wrong with saying, I want to get along with people. I want to connect with people. And so therefore you put in the effort. Even when you don't feel like it, you put in an effort. That's not the same thing as deceiving people. That's not the same thing as pretending to be something you're not, to give off an impression. There's a difference there, There's a difference in deceiving people and then making a choice to be the kind of person that you want to be. Becky was saying, do you have to talk to a lot of people when you go to the theme park by yourself, or is it just tiring, or is it tiring just hearing other people screaming and shouting? So when I was using the theme park, I actually wasn't talking about the social aspect of it. I just meant, like, have you ever spent a day at a theme park? It's exhausting, isn't it? Like, I don't know about you. I just mean like I love theme parks. That's what I was saying. I love theme parks. And I love rides. To be honest, it's not really the people. I wasn't talking about, I was trying to use that as an analogy. I was saying spending a day at a theme park, that's a very energy draining day, but it's a good day. It's a fun day, but it's a day that takes up all your energy. And so that's what I was trying to say. And then, yeah, Becky's saying, yeah, but I'm also really shy. So maybe you're introverted. Shyness is a thing. Yeah, shyness can be, but you know, you're only shy if you want to be. It's okay to admit if you want to be shy, but that's really your choice. Do you want to be shy? Because if you say I am shy and I prefer to be shy, then okay. But if you're saying I'm shy but I want to be more outgoing, there's nothing. The only thing stopping you from that is yourself. You know, if you want to be more outgoing, if you want to step outside of your shyness, it's just your decision to choose. I know I feel shy, but I'm going to make myself at least say hello to someone, or I'm going to make myself introduce myself to someone, or, you know, exercise stepping out of that shyness. And the more you exercise it, the better you get out of that. Silas was saying, yeah, that's very exciting. I hope you make some friends who really share a lot of the same interests. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. Let's see. Yep, that's right. Her birthday's coming up. We had a fun time. We did get her a nice present. Her birthday is coming up, but we celebrated her birthday and Dad's birthday this Sunday. We had lunch after church with the family, and we got them a few things. I know we got her some pictures, like we got her a photo shoot with the family. So I think we're doing a family photo shoot this Sunday. That's part of her gift. And then I think we got her a few other things. I remember what we got Dad. I can't remember what all we got Mom. I think we got them both something, and we all as siblings kind of chipped in. I think my sister picked up a few items for her. We got her a new jacket. That's what my sister found for her, but it was an expensive jacket, so all of us siblings, we kind of contributed and got that for her. But yes, indeed, you know, she definitely deserves some appreciation indeed. Let's see here. And no worries, yeah, Becky didn't quite understand the metaphor. Maybe I didn't explain well that I meant for it. Well, there you go. Yeah, Becky, if you don't want to be shy, then all you have to do is just exercise your ability to step out of that shyness. And you don't have to take a large step. You know, you don't have to go from, I'm shy, let me go to karaoke and sing on stage. It's like, that's a pretty big leap. But what you can do is, whatever situations you do have to interact with people, start with just small talk. Just start with saying hello to someone. Say, hi there, you know. And that's it, you know. That's all there is to it, you know. You start with the small stuff, and once you kind of develop a habit of doing that, then you try to say, let me see if I can, you know, start like a small, like 1-minute conversation with someone. To be honest, I wouldn't even have started talking on the live stream in the first place if you hadn't said, don't be shy. That's really sweet of you to say, Becky. Well, thank you. And that's part of why I say it. It's kind of funny. When I say don't be shy, I mean, you know, I mean it friendly. I mean, just be like, hey, if you're going to tune in, like, you know, I'm trying to encourage conversation. But that's really sweet of you to say something. And for what it's worth, Becky, like, I'm glad you spoke up because, you know, all three of you, you know, Jack, Becky, Silas, all three of you are some of my favorites who attend the stream, and I always enjoy chatting with you all. And so Becky, you certainly, like, I'm certainly glad. And if that makes you feel better, just know that, like, I'm so glad you spoke up. You know, I'm so glad you shared your interest in Breaking Benjamin and how you've encouraged me and how you've connected with my music. I'm so glad you spoke up, because if you stayed shy, you and I would have never developed a friendship. We never would have gotten to know each other. We would have never made a connection. And that's the benefit, you know. When you choose to step outside of your shyness, you open up that opportunity to make connections that you wouldn't have, you know. And so that's what I'm exercising as well. The whole point I step out of my comfort zone to connect with people is because if I don't do that, then I won't connect with people, you know. And it's that simple. Sometimes the things we want take effort, they take practice, but you work yourself up to it. There's nothing wrong with starting small, developing the habits, and little by little pushing yourself to do more and more and more. And most of the time it's going to pay off, you know. Most of the time you're going to be glad you did it. Thank you. Yeah, Silas saying Quincy is very welcoming. Well, I appreciate that. And see that, yeah, that's really great, Jack. You know, it's so hurtful that, you know, that you lost your brother to that way, but it's such a blessing that you're able to take that experience and connect with others. And even if it does take some effort to do that, it's something bigger than love is motivated by more than emotion, you know? Like that's what you're doing, you know, you're showing love. And it's, you know, your feelings might say it'd be easier to be bitter. It'd be easier to keep to myself, you know, but you know what it would mean to you for someone to show that kind of compassion to you. And so you know what it can do for others. And so that's what motivates you. So even though your feelings might tell you that you would feel safer and you'd feel more comfortable just keeping to yourself and staying quiet, your conviction, what convicts you is your desire for other people not to experience the same hurt that you had and to help them overcome those struggles. And that's for each and every one of us, you know. Our feelings aren't always our friends. Our feelings don't always have our best interests in mind. And so that's when you have to use wisdom and you have to think like, well, who do I want to be? And, you know, what impact do I want to have in life and with the people around me? Because the only way you're going to have that is by making choices. And sometimes you have to make choices that take effort and aren't, and insist on you stepping out of your comfort zone. Thank you, Jack saying Quincy is awesome. You all are too kind. I appreciate that. All right. Well, guys, I've enjoyed the conversation, but it is definitely late. I'm definitely looking forward to getting some dinner. So, guys, I hope you found this interesting. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and hope you enjoyed the lyrics, diving into some lyrics and stuff. But if you do enjoy these streams and you want to show a little bit of support, there's a link I just posted, and you can see it pinned at the top of the chat as well. If you'd like to leave a tip, I certainly appreciate that. If you want to get yourself a piece of merch, I've got hoodies and hats and T-shirts and different things, so get yourself something cool. If you want to download my music, it's available for free, or you can provide a little bit of support by downloading my music and paying something for it. I do appreciate that as well. And lastly, if you want to stay notified whenever I do release new songs, again, this new song that I'm working on, Pull the Trigger, if you want to be notified when it's released, make sure you're signed up for my email list. Again, that same link at the bottom, you can sign up for it. Amen, Quincy, to all of that. Well, thank you, Silas. Much appreciated. Yeah, Jack, I think it's great. What you're doing, helping others face those problems, that's a great motivation. That's a great thing that you're doing. So, guys, thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Until next time.